I'm here with current mayor and mayoral candidate Carl Hokanson. Mr. Hokanson has served his first term as mayor and is running again, so we'll just get right into it. So, Mr. Mayor, why are you running again?
Thank you for taking your time to get this interview going. It's very important. And in regards to your first question, my goal for the next 4 years is to keep the momentum going. As you know, September of last year was our first groundbreaking ceremony, the biggest one in 53 years. So I'm looking to keep the momentum as far as the developments are going, to make sure they stay on track, to make sure that they are handled properly, and I want to make sure that we can get them done as quick as possible, that we can get the taxpayers what they need in their tax relief.
All right, but so sometimes mayors or elected officials are like, one term's enough. I don't need to do any more. So why do you want to keep serving? Like, why not just move on or go for other office or just do something else? Why do you want to stay in this position as mayor?
As I stated, I want to keep the momentum going. I want to see things get done that have been started.
All right. Okay. And like I started out, you're serving your first term, but you started out as a councilman.
Councilman at large for 6 years, yes, sir.
And the funny story is that you started as a councilman with then Mayor Diorio, and now the tables have turned, and he's the council at large, and you're the mayor.
Yes.
Just for people who don't know you, people who moved in, who's Carl Hokanson? Can you give us some just background on your life and time in council?
Time on council, I came on council in 2009. I was elected councilman at large. I served a 3-year term. I ran a second time, and I won councilman at large for a second time. At one time, being up on council, I was the only Democrat at that time. But I find it to be, it was a challenge, but it was a good challenge. It was a working challenge. We worked together.
And just for the record, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you're now a registered independent. You're not a Democrat anymore. Or
no, I am a registered independent.
Okay. But you were talking about your time at council working with others.
Right. At one time, I was a registered Democrat on Republican council by myself.
Okay.
So now I'm an independent by myself working with Republicans and Democrats on council.
Okay. And before you were on council, can you give just some background for those who may not know you?
I came to Roseville Park. I was 6 months old. I went through the school system. I graduated in 1969. I went into the Marine Corps 69. I came out in 71. I joined my father and I opened a service station back in the early 70s. 1976, I became a patrol officer for the borough of Roseville Park. I served 28 years, 3 months. I received 28 citations. I retired in 2005. I became elected official in 2009, where I currently am now.
Okay. And you're married with...
I'm married with 4 children. My oldest...
And a grandfather.
And yes, I have my lovely granddaughter, Evelyn. And luckily for me, my son and my beautiful daughter-in-law, they're expecting twins in February.
Wow. So you were talking about keep the momentum going.
Yes, sir.
But when you came in 4 years ago, we had talked before, and we talked about your vision and your big picture for Roseville Park.
Mm-hmm.
Has that changed? And if not, what is your short-term and long-term vision for the borough as an elected official?
The visions have changed.
Okay.
We are no longer, at one time we were classified as not being business friendly. We had a very hard reputation as far as certain departments go. That problem has been corrected. We have bigger and brighter things coming down the pike. As you know, like I said, we broke ground last September with the Damani site. We just approved the redevelopment plan for the Sullivan property, which has been an eyesore for over 10 years. We also have, across the street, we have 8 apartments going up. Hawthorne Street, we had that's been vacant and an eyesore for 17 years. That problem has been corrected. We're just waiting on some legality questions as far as COA and that goes. He's ready to go. Mimi's Pizzeria is ready to go. We have Hunters on the back burner, and we have Kenpack.
Which is the Ryan property.
Yes, this is the Ryan property, which is across from the 7-Eleven on Locust Street that borders the parking lot for New Jersey Transit. And we have a self-storage unit.
That's right. Are they coming in again?
Yeah,
Monday?
it's
They put it
had
in?
they had the preliminary.
Right.
There was a couple questions, a couple things that the Municipal Land Use Board wanted, corrected, and from what I understand, he's willing to make those corrections, and if all goes well this month, that'll be approved.
All right. So, like in 2015, that was one of your goals: development and business friendly, and
Mhm.
you've said you reached them. Are there any things that you still like to work on from when you first came into office that you want to work on that you haven't achieved, maybe, or think that more can be done?
Always more can be done.
Okay.
There's always more that can be done. Achieved. There's a few little things. I would like to stay with some summer hours for the summer hours, because for the people that work late, that we had that once and we haven't been able to achieve that again. So there's a few little minor things, but we're getting through them.
Okay. And you talked about some of those obstacles. You had said there were certain personnel, and just as a review from your first year as mayor, where I believe it was all but one, you had the majority of the party at the time, right?
My first year, yes.
And so that changed, and
Mhm.
and the relationships changed. You had
Yes.
some relationships that grew and others that kind of fell apart.
Yes.
And also with personnel.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us some background, without violating any kind of laws or confidentiality, how you worked when an obstacle came, say when there was personnel that was not working or you weren't getting along with certain members of council?
We've had a few incidences with some personnel. I'm glad to report that one of them is no longer here. Actually, two of them are no longer here. When you have the right people in the right positions that you can sit down to, and the biggest thing that we need to do is talk. Talk. Come in, let's talk about this. There's a few instances where we had to go above and beyond, and get some legal advice, some
Okay.
legal attorneys, but it has worked out. We expanded. Things are moving, I think, smoothly, a lot better than what they were years ago. So, yes, we're getting there. Slow but sure, but we're getting there.
And we had talked, so you said, you're human like everyone else, and there's times where, actually you spoke about this at the last meeting, you said in your 10 years, you try not to pull it for politics or for things personal. And there, even critics of yours have said that you've held to that you very rarely. I remember the one time I've ever seen you get angry is actually when a family member came up and really got you going.
Yes.
So understanding that we're all human and stuff like that. How do you keep yourself in check with being Carl the resident and being Carl the elected official?
Rubber band.
What's that?
I keep poking it on I have it around my wrist,
Okay.
and when I get to that point, I keep snapping it. And there's times when I get welts. That's the Carl Hokanson I don't want to be.
Okay.
And believe me, there are people that no matter what you do, they're going to hate you. There's some people that are not going to be able to understand it.
Okay.
You can sit down, and I try to talk to people in their terms.
Okay.
If this was you, how would you handle it? And there has been times that I've just told people, sorry, there's nothing I can do for you.
Okay.
We can stand here and argue all day long if the glass is half full or half empty. We can understand so forth and so on. And some people just, 1/3 of the people are going to love you.
Right.
1/3 of people are going to hate you. 1/3 of the people are going to sit back and say, "What's in it for me?" And you try to sit back and explain that to them.
Okay.
You know, and what's in it for me? You know, what are you going to do for me? What are you going to do for the borough?
Okay.
You know, so yeah.
And how do you keep in contact, or how do you keep your ear open to that? Other than when people come to you, how do you gauge what the community wants, what it doesn't want?
One, to make yourself available.
Okay.
Number two, to be there. Number three, to go to all the different events and listen. Don't go in with a closed mind. Go in and listen. Okay? People call me. People stop in. You know, they send me stuff on my Facebook page. You know, listen, and I will get back to you because, as you know, there's 3 sides to every story. There's your side, there's my side, and there's the right side. So now you have to try to come in and work with the people to try to get the right answer. Some people may not like that answer, but that's the answer. 2 and 2 is 4. No matter how you look at it, 2 and 2 is 4.
Right.
But, you know, you might want to come in and say, you know, like the old Abbott and Costello, you know, 13 times 7 is 28.
Right.
So, you know, and you could prove it.
Right.
If you take 13
Right.
times, write it 7 times, 3, 6, 9, but, you know, so the name of the game is to make yourself, which I think I've done more than ample, is accessibility, and, you know, to be able to, I answer my own phone.
Okay.
I have no secretary. I answer my own phone, the mayor's phone, 908-666-7817. When I'm in my office, I try to answer my, you know, the landline.
Right.
So I make myself available. I keep hours, days that I'm here. There's days I'm in my office, and I'm only counting office hours. I'm not counting council meetings, budget meetings, events.
Right.
I'm in my office. Sometimes I get here at 8:30 in the morning. Sometimes I leave 6 o'clock at night. Other times I get here at 9 o'clock in the morning. By 10:30, I'm caught up, and I'll do what I have to do.
Okay. Can you give instances where you've compromised or seen something through someone else's point and gone with that, like to show, like, you know, where you've worked with other people? If not, that's fine. But, you know, like, have there been times where you went in thinking one thing, talked with someone, saw their point of view, and included that in whatever?
Yeah, I've had that with residents, you know,
Okay.
as far as problems with streets. You
Okay.
know,
Because your street still isn't done.
private joke, folks. 10 years.
Actually, yeah. The joke is your street is one of the streets that actually has the old.
It's been on the list to get repaired.
And it has
For
the
10
old
years
style
I've been on cancel. It's concrete.
street concrete. But so you're saying with residents when you meet up with them or stuff like that, you
I have incidents which we just had the closeout on East Colfax Avenue. I had a compromise with that.
okay.
I've had a compromise with some people at property lines, the setbacks,
Okay.
so forth and so on. There was an incident where there was a collapse on one of the business's properties, which was in the sewer line, and they wanted to go in to look at it, and I says no because it's confined space. So I put my foot down.
Okay.
Oh, we can just it's right here. No, we're not doing that. It's confined space, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to have somebody go in there and get hurt or die because of that.
Right.
So sometimes, you know,
Okay.
and then you know.
Okay. So when you came into office in 15 as the mayor, and even before then, the borough, other than taxes, right, which is the one constant, there have been different concerns or different priorities, I guess, both elected officials and residents have had. So today, in 2018, what do you see as major concerns or issues for the borough?
Major issues, okay. I think the biggest goal I'm going to have next year, in the next 4 years, is to educate.
And what do you mean by that?
What I mean by that, I am responsible to 31.67% of the budget.
Okay.
I am responsible for 31.67% of the budget. So for every $100, I'm responsible for 32.
Okay.
The Board of Education is 53.8% of the budget. So for every $100, 58 of it goes towards the thing. All I'm saying is I'm 100% behind the schools. We have a great system, the STEM system, the awards that we get, the marching bands, the wrestling, everything. I've seen it for 66 years. It's phenomenal. Okay? But, you know, folks, and 14.5% is the county.
Right.
So when people come into me and you're screaming me about taxes, well, you got 53.38% is the Board of Education. I have no control over that. None. None whatsoever. Just like I have no control over the county. So I got to start educating people to sit back and say, you know something, folks? You're getting 54%, okay? And you've got X amount of students and faculty. I've got 13,500 people. I got umpteen miles of roadway. I got buildings. I got so much to worry about. So we do what we can for that 31%. So when people yell and scream at me about taxes, I just shake my head. Look, if you want to yell at me for the 31%, that's fine. But take the other 14, 50, take the other 68% and take it to the county or take it to the Board of Education.
So what do you say to people who say that that's kind of like you're pointing fingers or like throwing the Board of Ed or the county under the bus, to kind of alleviate or to you may call education, right, to let people know the truth, which is
Right.
that's an absolute fact. You're correct, but people say there are people and I've heard this. At the end of the day, it's all our money, right? It all goes.
It all comes
to
out of
serve
the same,
everything, right?
Right. You
Yeah.
got the same pair of pants on. Does it come out of the right hand
Right.
pocket or the left hand
Right.
pocket? It's still the same pair of pants. But I can't argue what the board does or the county does.
Okay.
I can only sit back and say what we have done.
Okay.
And in the 10 years, when I came on in 2009, when we first sat down at our budget meeting, we were at like a $200 and something deficit, per household. We got it down to $154. And every year, we've got it down, down, down. We've been basically staying pretty good under $100. This is the lowest tax rate we've had in almost 17 years.
And that's the increase from last
the
year.
increase,
Right?
what, $40-something? And no layoffs. We kept everybody on, and we even hired a person.
Okay. Right.
So when you sit back, and I can only go back to the old days when a house was assessed at $65,000. Okay? $65,000. If I were to take away garbage collection, the $500 and something thousand, okay? Do away with it. If I laid off the entire DPW yard, DPW personnel, from the superintendent down to the lowest guy, got rid of them, okay? And if I laid off 2 police officers, and I'm just rounding it off, if your taxes were $10,000, you'd be paying like 94 and change. So I just saved you about $500 in taxes. Your garbage collection, you're going to have to go out and get on your own. Which, if you look at the residents in Cranford, they're paying anywhere from $400 to $500.
Right.
So the $500 I just saved you, you just got out the window. Plus, you got no DPW help,
Right.
and you've got 2 police officers that are laid off. So when you sit back and you talk about taxes and what I can do, what I have plans of doing, like everybody else does, you can't lower taxes. You can stabilize them. Yes, you can lower them to a certain point. If once the Damani site is up and running, and I said at the council meeting, when it's up and running, which could be 2 years, if the Sullivan property, when it's up and running, could take 3 years, you're looking at about a $900,000 increase in taxes. So when you boil that down to, it's about $340 to stabilize. So that's only those 2 projects. So when you got Hunters, Sullivans, when you got Hunters, Timpac, Mimi's, Hawthorne Street, you got all these things. Maybe that's about $1,000. that we can stabilize. And don't forget, next year, 2019, every contract is up in the barrel.
Oh, yeah.
Every major contract is up in 2019.
And are you looking to that in renegotiations to see how to stabilize taxes or okay?
Mm-hmm.
But so let's get back. So in talking with you talk with residents
Mm-hmm.
as you've done, right? And the first thing out of their mouth is taxes, right?
Right.
So you go, okay, what else? So what else do you think is of concern to the residents today?
Taxes are high.
Right.
You talk to realtors, you talk to people moving in. Go on. I look at it this way: if you were to take a house from Roselle Park and go move to Cranford, a lot higher.
Right.
Taxes are your number one problem. They're always going to be the number one problem. But the name of the game is if you start realizing and start thinking outside the box, which we did last year. We went to a different gift and saved how many umpteen thousands of dollars?
Right.
You got to start thinking out of the box. But see, people think that once you start doing this, oh my God, my tax is going to come down $2,000. No, based on your assessment,
Right.
this $300 here, this $150 here, that $50 over here, it all adds up. But what's going to happen in 3 years? That's why we and council, we work very hard on doing what we do as far as getting a 3-year contract that we're locked in, that we know what's going on with the garbage and so forth and so on. So now, we can plan. In the 10 years I've been here, there's been one person that has let go. One person in 10 years. We have maintained our police department. We have gone out and hired and expanded our construction department. We now have basically a full-time, part-time, because of the hours, construction official that's bringing it in. And with all this development that is coming in, it goes back into the general budget. The plumbing permit, the electrical permit for the Damani site is about $59,000.
What about the DPW? Is the DPW fully staffed right now, or
No,
Okay.
no. No, I think we're down to about 10 or 11.
Okay.
10 or 11.
And does that do you think that impacts services and again it's not well known, right? So when people say
yes, it does.
Okay.
Because what happens is, like, say right now, we were to get hit with if this Florence decided to come up this way and hit us, we had 3 guys on vacation.
Okay.
So when you got an 11-man DPW and 3 guys are out on vacation, it's going to suffer.
Okay.
You're going to suffer. Just like if these guys were to get sick or go out on comp or something like that, where come wintertime, it's going to suffer.
Okay.
You're going to suffer.
All right.
And basically what happens is, depending on how it goes, we got a good year, we don't snowplow, we save tax dollars.
All right. So now in 2018, what do you find most, I guess, positive or something that you like to hang your head on? Not outside of just Roselle Park as a whole. What's most positive you find about Roselle Park?
I had the honor today. We went down to the Ernie Finizio reunion today.
Okay.
Down the shore. There was 195 people from Roselle Park, and I mean, they came in from Idaho, and it was one of the few times that I felt very comfortable standing up and talking in front of a crowd, because when I looked out there, it wasn't people, it wasn't voters, it was family. The generations, they had gentlemen there tonight from the class of 1949.
Okay.
Actually Ernie Finizio's class of 1958 was honored today because they're having their 60th reunion.
Okay.
So when I look back, I'm proud to the fact that I'm still here and to see what's going on. And now we got how the torch is passed.
Okay.
How the torch is passed down to some of these younger kids. It's a shame that the first time in 100 years we're not doing a football team. But times change. We have to look forward to that. Hopefully, we can, get back into things. But just the fact that being down there today and seeing all the people from Roselle Park, and it was very, very nice. You know, the warmth, the love that they have for this borough, which we all do, I do, and it was just amazing to sit back and see that today. And as you know, to the people out there listening, my number one goal has been, in the 10 years I've been on council, is safety. I will continue to make Roselle Park a safe, or if not safer, community. Why would you want to move to Roselle Park or develop in Roselle Park if it wasn't safe? So that's always been my number one goal.
Okay. And what do you see as a concern right now for the borough?
The concern,
Or something that just bothers you, just like a...
depending on how the federal government goes with the CBDG grants,
Okay.
money, we get $300,000-$400,000 a year. If that goes, gone. If slash of a pen, they no longer do that. So that means the federal government's not going to give it to the state. The state's not going to give it to the county. The county's not going to give it to Roselle Park. So that means we're going to have to start doing real deep into our pockets to start keeping the infrastructure going.
Okay.
Because as you know, it gets worse and worse every year. We get a bad winter, those roads are horrible.
Right.
And you can only do so much with what you've got in the coffers.
Okay. And we were talking about government, and as far as locally, great, because you understand federal government. Most people would agree or observe what federal government. In the local level, in Roselle Park, what do you think government's role is, and what do you think a mayor's role is in a town like Roselle Park?
To oversee, my goal is to work with everybody. Okay? We got to put these differences aside. We got to start putting all this, silliness aside. And we got to come together, to come up with a common goal to say we have to go here. And how are we going to get there? Okay? Over the last 4 years being mayor, I think we've broken down a lot of barriers as far as culture goes. It's amazing how the diversity is now in this borough. So you need to sit down, with them and look at what happens. Look at the people themselves. Don't look at an R. Don't look at a D. Is this person doing his job? Then let him do his job. This stuff about, all of a sudden, another regime takes over and they sweep out, because they don't like them or they need to have control. That's garbage.
And have you appointed people from both parties?
Yes.
To positions? Okay.
And I've kept people on with both parties.
Okay.
That's what got me in trouble. That's what's got me in trouble. I'm tired of looking at R's and D's.
Okay.
I'm tired.
So you kept someone, or you appointed someone and thought this person is the most positive.
You got to get rid of him because he's this. You got to get rid of him because he's that.
Okay.
If you look at his record, I ain't getting rid of him.
Okay.
I'm not getting rid of him, or that person, or that agency. Just do your job. Let's go forward. We got to go forward.
What do you think the governing body's job is? What do you think their job is?
To maintain and give with the people what they want.
Okay.
To make sure that it gets done within a reasonable amount of time, at a reasonable amount of cost, okay, and put the differences aside. Okay. So far, the last few years, we've had a couple ups and downs, but when you start to look at it, just remember, okay, you can, depending on whatever the makeup is of council, 7 R's, 7 D's, 2, 1, 3, 5. You need 4 people to get something done. You need 4 people. If I want to go out and do this, I can't do it as Mayor Hokanson. I need 4 people on council. And hopefully you'll have 4 educated people that would realize what's best.
Actually, and the best scenario is that you don't get to vote, because you only get to vote when there's...
I only vote in case there's a tie.
And I think I think you've only voted to break a tie, twice maybe, I think?
I don't know.
It's very rare. It's not where it was like every week we had to do something, right? I think you had to break a tie I think maybe just
No,
twice.
I broke a tie when it came to a borough clerk.
Well, that was
I broke that tie. So
so it looks like council is, for the most part, right, beyond the what people call silly season, they work together. They work
Yeah.
cohesively. There's almost always agreement into ordinances. Very rarely is there even just one no vote.
Right.
Very rarely does it come down to something being defeated.
Mhm.
And funny enough, recently things have been defeated.
because we have to make them defeated.
Well, because you had to listen because
Right.
the people said no, this doesn't work,
Right.
and you have to do it again.
Right.
Okay. And development, you've talked about that a lot. You've made that a huge issue,
Mm-hmm.
and it's important right now. So we've got two Meridian projects.
Yes.
One is
we have one.
One, right? But
We have one.
but there's the Sullivan property is
That
the
he
proposed
He is the proposed
contracted purchaser. Right?
Yes, sir.
We have Romarowski who made
Right.
who made an informal kind of the new potential partner came in to talk about seeing moving forward with that.
That's in the hands of the attorneys as far as the legalities that happened when the fiasco started with Avalon Bay.
Right.
So that's in the hands of the attorneys. I really can't get into it too much because we did talk about it in closed session at the last meeting. But once the attorneys start talking to each other, you may see it on the 20th, but I think you'll probably most likely see it in the first meeting in October.
So we're talking about proposed, in the works, the two Meridian projects, Romarowski. We have Mimi's, which was Hunter, which is, you said, in the works. The Hawthorne Basin,
Right.
which is done. Ryan property
Across the street.
across the street over here. So, what is your outlook on development?
Positive.
Okay. And what do you say to people who would say, we're this small,
Right.
we're already the highest in
You're right. Roselle Park, out of the 20 municipalities, we're about a mile square with compared to some other towns, but we are the most populous dense with over 13,500 people. But then I sit back and I look at these people. I says, go to Hoboken. Go to a two-city block in Manhattan. Go to these different areas that everybody and their mother is building around us. They're going to be putting up another 3,000 apartments in Union, possibly 900 and something in Cranford. Elizabeth, there's more apartments from Galloping Hill Road to Elmore Avenue on the south side of Westfield Avenue than I'll have in the next couple of years. Okay? Everybody is building. And I understand the lady that came up, she doesn't want to be stagnated. Okay? But I've also, I've had developers call me up and they wanted, I think that's one of your questions. He wanted 50,000 square feet to do a supermarket. Okay? Yes, it would probably hurt Chestnut Hill, which I have shopped in Chestnut Hill since I've been in this town my whole life. But it's capitalism. It's, what am I going to do? I'm going to stop this because of that, because then it's discrimination. Then it's this. I can understand if I had 6 supermarkets, then I'm going to say, yeah, like we did with the hair salons, so forth and so on. But it's called competition. It's called that. The mom and pop stores are dead.
Okay.
As much as I love to see them. I mean, I was married and buying my sneakers from Mr. DeMarco on Chestnut Street. There was no Nike. There was no New Balance. It was PFC Flyers. But the Amazon. You can buy a car. You can buy Carvana now. You can buy a car with your app. So the little things, as much as I would love to see come back, it's reality is saying no.
So you touched upon the nail salons and going back to the question about government. And there's some people who say, you know what, government. You were talking about capitalism. Be like, you know what, if someone wants to put up a store and it's legal, let them. And they feel very. They think that government has become too overregulating, right? Like we have the sewer with the sewer pipes,
Right.
and with the nail salons, and with other kind of quality of life things. And people are saying that's not what government's supposed to be. What do you say to people when you're trying to tell them, well, this is why I want less nail salons, or this is why we want this?
you don't want you don't want a glut of something, because then eventually what's happened is that they start to cut each other's throats. And this one's doing that one, and next thing you know, the people go. I can only talk about my wife. If her hairdresser would pick up and move to Atlantic City, she'd be going to Atlantic City.
Okay.
You know, because that's just the way it is. Because people stick with
Right.
who they're comfortable with. I also feel that I don't think it's kind of like our right to a certain point that you are the landlord and you're trying to rent your building out because you don't want a vacant, you don't want to be an eyesore, or as the terminology was used recently, a broken window.
Right.
So I don't think it's my right to sit back and say, hey, you can't do that, but you need some type of guidance. I think I
Is that where we talk about compromise? Because it looked
Right.
like when this first started, you were kind of the, you know what, if you want to put something there that's legal,
Right.
put it there.
Right, to a certain point.
Right.
There's the tattoo parlors and the strip joints that, I would not want to see. But technically, if there's legal,
Okay.
there's really not that much recourse I have. But so far, knock on wood, we had 2 stores that are vacant right now.
Okay. And what would you say to people that overdevelopment's going to be bad for Rosa Park's future? We're going to have more population. We're going to need more services,
Okay.
and understanding that we only have about maybe 200 pieces of property in the town that are for businesses,
Right.
and that's counting
Mhm.
the that's counting places like Hexacon and industrial places. And so, what do you say to people who say, "Look, we've only got we've gotten a certain number of places, we've got a certain number of businesses."
Right.
When we have too many more people than there are, right, that's going to become a detriment. What do you say to people who say we're going to have a population problem?
The population is definitely going to increase.
Okay.
There's no doubt about that. You got 213 apartments. Okay, 178 of them are single. So just round it up, 200. So there's 300 people there.
Right.
Okay. Sullivan property, if that goes, that's 380. I don't know how many 1 or 2 bedrooms. So let's just round that off. That's another 700.
It's about 1,100
Okay.
people.
All right, it's 1,100 people. So there's 1,000.
Yeah.
Okay. You got
That's about 10% of our population.
right. So, and as long as I'm here,
Right.
okay, I will keep according to the standards with the as far as the FBI statistics go, as far as population, where you need X amount of cops for
Right. Yes.
population.
Yeah.
The amount of money that will be coming in through the development, that'll pay for that police officer.
But then won't that cut into the money that you say you're giving back to residents?
Well, yes,
Right.
yeah, but I'm also giving a police officer back to the residents. That officer's not going to be just signed to that building. That officer's going to be out there patrolling on the street every day.
Okay.
So right now, there's been studies that when I was on a job, we've maintained a 34-man department since I was on.
It actually a study made in 2012, I think.
Right, and then there was another study that showed we can go as high as 37.
Right. So you're actually technically
So technically, we're down. And don't forget, we also get Safe Street Grants money too.
correct.
So that's another thing that hopefully that it never ends, because if we did, that's $65,000 that the taxpayers are going to have to come with to keep that police officer
Right.
there. So these are things that, this is going back 30 years ago when I was on the job, we were getting Safe Streets money.
Okay.
So as far as the population goes, yes, if it's a population thing, and if we need to hire that police officer, we will hire that police officer.
Okay. So what happens if like the town gets 15,000, 16, 17, let's say 20,000 people, right? That there's a boiling point at some point, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's just too much.
Well, that's actually true,
Right.
because eventually the way things are going right now, all the properties that have been an eyesore for over the years, now they're finally going to become. Then eventually, once they're developed,
That's it. No more space.
there's no more space,
Right.
unless
Unless
you
you
want to
build
go
up.
buy. Well, unless you go up. But see, that was the problem that we had. See, our forefathers had the thing to put it in 6 stories.
Yeah.
Even
Back then,
though-
a 6-story building was a high rise, right? But now
Right.
it's
right,
just
right.
a 6-story
Right,
building.
Right.
We've got 100.
So,
Right.
so this is when when people come up to me and they say, well, blah, 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 we never had this before. You're absolutely right, folks. We haven't.
But
But
then
it,
it's on the
it
books.
doesn't mean that, our forefathers, if that was the case, they should say no more than 4 stories.
Right.
But now we're allowed 6. It meets the requirements. so forth and so on. That's the reason why we do keep it at a certain height because of fire regulations, because we have 105 foot. We don't go like over 70.
Okay.
So it's like anything else. Like I told you before, I had PF Flyers from Mr. DeMarco. Now I got Nike, I got New Balance, I got Air Jordans, I got so much variety that times have changed.
Okay. And you spoke about the borough's reputation before for being just a big piece of red tape as far as business was concerned.
Yes.
Can you talk about what you've done to make Roselle Park business friendly?
Well, me personally, I have sat here with developers in this office like we are right now, and they look at me and they say, we like to do this, 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 and this. I hand them a card. It's my zoning officer. I says, talk to my zoning officer. If my zoning officer says it's good, I'll help you put the shovel on the ground. And what we do is then we walk them here, there, so forth and so on. You know, do you keep? I know you can't let the public know for reasons, but do you keep like council or the governing body informed of when people have meetings? Because let's say someone goes, well, that's a back room meeting right there. Right? No, because basically what happens is, you know, when they come in here, you know, they want to get a feel, okay? And as long as it's a feel, then I would sit back and tell them, say, yeah, I met with such and such.
Okay.
They're coming back, okay? Because I will talk to them one-on-one, just like I'll talk to anybody one-on-one.
Okay. So your door's open, right?
My door is open. So if a contractor wants to come in, if a citizen wants to come in, if a guy wants to build a garage in his backyard, I'll sit there and listen to him. But once it all starts the process, and I repeat it and I've said it over and over again, nothing I have done has been below board to the fact that all of mayor and council eventually gets to know about it and votes on it. I did not negotiate the pilot program by myself.
Okay.
I did not negotiate as it was done years ago with only 2 people. Full mayor and council voted on that pilot program for the Damani site. So everything that I do, mayor and council will know about it. And that's what I said the other night when everything else. If it comes up for the redevelopment plan, if it comes up to this, all of mayor and council will vote on it. The pilot programs, the densities, the color of the light, whatever, mayor and council votes on it.
And so get back to the question about changing the. I can attest to when you first came into office. I think within your first month, council as a whole again voted to rescind a restriction that was put in for Westfield Avenue, where you couldn't have parking in the front. Remember?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That was done within your first month.
That was one of the first times in an reorganization meeting that was done.
Right. I mean,
and I pushed for that.
And that was your first. That was literally your first meeting, right? And you did that.
Yes.
So, what other examples can you give of either you, guiding or working with council? And do you think Roselle Park's reputation has changed from being non-business friendly to business friendly?
Yes.
Okay.
It's definitely been changed. Sometimes not with the very big multi-million-dollar, because people see and they read.
Okay.
You know, all this stuff, company A, here it is. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, the Sullivan property was done, the redevelopment plan was done a year ago, June.
Right.
And here it is,
September.
15 months later,
Yeah.
and we just got the redevelopment plan approved. So now we got to appoint the developer. But the thing that gets me, which I know I'm going to get a lot of people aggravated. Sometimes we can't walk and chew bubblegum at the same time.
Do you find that do you find you
I
find
find
it
it very
frustrating?
frustrating.
How do you deal with that? Understanding that government is a slow-moving beast.
I have told my borough clerk that there's got to be a way. And you're probably the computer genius or computer guru that you are. That when the borough clerk sends out an email, we got to come up with something that they read it.
Right.
They got to come up and say we read it, because there's times, which I'm at fault. I'm not perfect. To give you an example, we had the thing come in from our attorneys, said that not only should we do this, but we should also appoint a developer that night. It went out. Nobody got back to the borough clerk. And he can't take it upon himself just to put something on the
Right.
agenda.
Right.
So it's partly my fault.
Okay.
It's partly somebody else's fault to sit back and say, hey, you know. But the thing that gets me frustrated is here we are trying to get the Sullivan property done. But meanwhile, the Hunter's property is on the back burner, stewing. And every day that he's, my zoning office, construction cost just went up 7.2%. So can you imagine if we had 3 or 4 of these? Or if we were a city like Linden or Elizabeth that had umpteen of these? We can't focus on more than one.
Okay.
That's frustrating.
Do you see though the caution in that, having too many such big plates, or do you think that if things like, what do you say to moments of like, hey, if we do, it's great to have everything done, but if you do it all at once, something might slip through.
Right, but the way things are coming in, one comes in, 4 or 5 months later, the second one comes in, okay? Because as you...
Oh yeah. For those, I'm looking at the mayor's board, and he actually has a list of all the properties.
The redevelopment plan was sent to mayor and council on 5/30/18 for the Hunter property.
Okay.
Where are we? Where are we with it?
Can you make things like that? Because, and another thing that's changed wasn't your idea, but to have workshop discussions. Can
Yes.
you? You can. Can you put them on as a workshop discussion at least?
Yes.
To
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, there's been a few emails going back and forth, and I says, well, I just hope it doesn't take a year,
okay.
like this one. But we have to. I understand, but when you have something comes in June of 2017, and for 4 months, which is I'll take the blame. I'll partly take the blame that our professionals that we pay good money, they're not talking. They're not talking to each other, and they're not talking to us. And so finally, it's like, hey, I've called you twice. I'm the mayor of the borough, and I still haven't gotten phone calls back from people.
Okay.
That's frustrating.
Okay.
Hey, look, I'm sorry. My house
got
blew
rent.
away. Give me something. But when you pay people good money to do a job, do your job and say, hey, here's an update.
Right. And with regard to so business friendly, being business friendly, you've changed some ordinances. What else have you done?
Again, you have to listen. There was a thing last year. The Giants were playing in London,
Okay.
and it was 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday.
Yes.
I inquired. One of our local taverns called up and says, "Hey, we can't do this and blah blah blah. It's going. So we inquired,
Okay.
and we changed the ordinance that now on a Sunday they can open up at 9 in the morning.
And that was an old law. It was basically like
Right.
a blue law for
Right.
you couldn't sell alcohol before noon.
Right. Not noon or 1 o'clock. So now
So you've done that. You've changed those laws.
We've changed that now that they can have a brunch,
Okay.
or if there's a game, that they can come in and give the people. What
Do you know
they
if there's
want.
been instances of increased alcoholism or
No.
drunkenness, public drunkenness?
No, not that I know. of.
Okay.
Not that I. Not that I
The
know.
chief
of.
hasn't come to you and said, "Hey, we got to work with this law."
But again, the businesses came to me and it says thank you because now I can have a brunch. Okay, the local businesses are doing well, with that because as you know, they're changing the NFL, the NFL, they're all changing. So why not help them change and we change, which we did.
Okay.
Which we did, and I'm glad that we were able to do that because they say it's 5 o'clock somewhere in the world. But it was nice. The one business had open. He had coffee and breakfast sandwiches.
Right.
So and going back to the business friendly, I can't say enough about what we have done as far as the construction department.
Okay.
Okay, we went from 6 hours from a gentleman to 29 hours, to a guy that's nice, friendly. He will sit down and talk to you. He will sit down and explain to you. I have him actually sit here with people in this office, say, look, all I need you to do is just draw this and do this, and we can, where the other people, it's like, not my job.
Okay.
And they would walk. We have bent over backwards. We expanded the hours for the inspectors. Okay, and from 6 hours a week, now we have 10 hours a week, and they're flexible. Okay, the Meridia site, the Monty site, you see how fast that's going? Because you know why? I have a guy that's knowledgeable, and he's there.
Okay.
He's doing the rebar. He's checking the rebar. This is good. The trucks are pulling in, which is another thing that we did. During the hot weather, they had to do a 600-yard pour. So that means 60 trucks. That's 10 yards of trucks, 60 trucks. They had to get it done by a certain time. The contractor contacted me. We contacted the people. We contacted the police department, and we started at 6 in the morning. And it was done by later in the
Right.
afternoon. The one, because of the concrete, to get it going, so forth and so on. So these are all little things that how quick you see things going up now. Okay? The hours, we have cut down the waiting time. I mean, we have a local contractor who's in the roofing business. I'm walking down Chester Street the other day, a couple weeks ago. He calls my name out. I turn around. He's hugging me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This doesn't look good. What am I thanking you for? He goes, I would put my permit in to do a roof. It would sometimes take me a week to 10 days. He goes, I drop it off at 8:30 in the morning. They look it over. Well, now the laws have changed,
Right.
but I got my permit by 10, 11 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you for, bringing this and doing things quicker. And the homeowners come in, And as I try to tell people, folks, for what we bring in, it's for your benefit. It's for your protection. As you know, one of the things that I kind of did, God rest his soul, Greg put the bulletin board here for me that I put up the development, and he also put up the bulletin board by the construction department to say, this is not what you want to do.
Right.
You don't want to duct tape something, to the electrical. So these are all little things that, we are doing to make it easier and get it back to more business friendly.
And what would you say to someone who says it's a little too business friendly? What would you say if someone says, I guess afraid that corners will be cut, that things will be rushed through?
No.
Okay.
No. No.
Okay.
No. Because everything is done. It's got to be inspected. So if somebody's going to cut in corner, I don't think so.
Okay.
Because matter of fact, another thing that we're trying to do is next meeting on the 20th, we're bringing a guy in. We're going to be working on getting a crane ordinance.
That's right.
For the big job, not the little air conditioner job, not the tree guy, but when you have a multi-million-dollar, 6-story concrete thing that we want to make sure that that everybody is safe on that job site and the surrounding area. So
Okay. All right. As we talked before, property taxes, always the talking points. And we did talk about how your thoughts of how the taxes can be used. How do you think council and you have done over the years through expenditures and revenues?
Okay. Revenues. Okay.
Because you talked about them.
This is where when you sit down and you listen to the to the people that you have in their job. We went out and we looked at different GIFs because after a while people get complacent. And it's like, we do this. And I think we saved, $150,000, almost $200,000 by going to a different GIF. And we got better coverage. Okay? One of the things that I didn't get done this year was to go out for an RFP to sell our SOAR rights to the water companies.
So what does that mean for people who don't understand what that means? Or why is that significant?
Because that could bring anywhere from about $4 to $7 million.
And what does selling the sewer rights mean? Like, what are you doing?
All the sewer rights all the infrastructure as far as the source goes. When you flush your toilet and that it goes into the sewer system, we have to maintain. Okay, it's 116 years old, that system. If something major goes wrong, we have to fix it. Taxpayers' dollars to get it fixed. Okay. If we were to sell it, we would be totally clear of it. So if for instance, the 300 block of Hemlock Street, the sewer line collapses, that would be ABC Water Company, XYZ Water Company's responsibility to fix it. Okay, there would be a...
So it's like privatizing, I guess.
It's privatizing.
Okay.
So we don't have to do that. But that'd be like a one lump deal of about anywhere from $4 to $7, maybe $8 million that the borough would get in one shot. Okay, and then they would maintain it. They have to keep it updated, so forth and so on. So we'll be out of that. So in talking to my chief financial officer, with all this stuff that's coming in, there's one of three things that you can do. One, you can put it in the general budget. Number two, you can put it towards debt consolidation. And number three, you use it for capital projects. You need a new fire truck, $1 million. Boom, you pay for it in cash. But again, also that's also subject to whatever government rules there are as far as financing.
Right.
So that would be another thing that I didn't get done within the last year of my administration. So I'm hoping to do that, to get that done, because that.
And like, how will that affect? Have you checked to see how that affects, like the cost for water or sewage? Like, will that?
The cost of water. This is another thing when people get their sewer bill. The water is based on the amount that comes through the meter. I have no control over that. If you want to stand out there and water your lawn 24 hours a day and that meter is running, I can't control that. If you have a built-in pool, and I have a pool, and if you got a kids like I did when I had 3 kids washing cars, I can't control that. Whatever the amount of water that goes through that meter, that's what you pay for. This is another thing that we got to start educating people. It's not my responsibility. That's one tax I have no control over.
Okay.
None.
All right. How do you plan to keep? You've touched upon it, but if you could reiterate, how do you plan to keep taxes low or as stable as possible?
Thinking outside the box, bringing in, whatever we could. If we can, sell the sewer rights, go out to different. Here, it's the little things. It's the little things. Borough clerk. A borough clerk. He's been on the job a year.
And for former resident, former councilman,
right?
And he's come back.
Oh, here's an idea to sit back, and we went out and with the help of other council members, we're doing a lot of these auctions now, online auctions.
Right.
We're picking up a ton of money. When you get this and that, we sold tires that we would have to pay $3 to $4 to get rid of. I think we made like 300 and something miles. So now we're looking at it where we're going to do it one more time. We're going to try to sell them. If we get $200 or $300, that's going to be you. The homeowner can now bring your tires down to the DPW yard and dispose of them because we're going to make money.
Right.
So I had a woman the other day call me up and she says, "Thank you." And I says, "For what?" She says, "Your alternate bulk fees that we have, that was set up about 2 years ago."
The a la carte, where you can
a la carte.
Right.
She says, "I called up a junk company. I
Right.
don't want to mention any names, and they gave her a price of over $400 to remove 4 or 5 items. She called up the DPW and it cost her $70. So it's $330 in her pocket. It's the little things. I can't go out and say, "Hey, I'm going to reduce your taxes," but through the development, thinking outside the box, and working diligently to keep things in check. Next year we got a big nut to crack. We got every major contract: police, DPW, clerical, school crossing guards. Those are all major contracts, and we're going to have to work hard to keep them, to stabilize.
Okay.
The development help stabilize. Whatever we can save, okay, we stabilize.
Okay. And so we talked about,
Oh,
go ahead.
and another thing we started 4 years ago, and we started on the 4 years ago. We have gone through the professionals, the borough clerk, the zoning officer, the construction official. Our codes were outdated. We haven't had an increase since 1982, 83. So we brought them back up to par, okay, to meet today's standards with all the other stuff, because if we would have kept the rules and regulations and the fees back in 82 for this redevelopment, okay, the $56,000 that we would be getting for the Damani site for the electrical would be like about $20,000.
Okay.
So we brought the fee structures up, okay, to do that, to help stabilize, to help increase, the burden on the taxpayer.
Okay. And so we talked about obstacles that you've faced. What obstacles do you see going forward if elected for a second term? How are you gonna? And we talked about how you compromise with different visions. But what do you see? So let's suppose this election you have a pretty right. So the council are running again to maintain their seats.
Mm-hmm.
So the possibility could be you keep with the same council.
Mm-hmm.
Possibility could be you now have 2 new members of council.
Right.
And I'm not making any accusations. I'm just saying, suppose their attitude is, I want this, or their vision is different than yours, or you're now an independent
Mm-hmm.
with 2 political parties now, right? So how do you see an obstacle like that you no longer have? And I'm just saying this very crudely. You no longer have in your pocket or a known vote because of party affiliation. You now have to work with people that you have no affiliation to anymore, right?
Right. I think personally, you're going to start seeing the tide change.
And what do you mean by that?
I think eventually you're going to start seeing more and more people locally,
Okay.
because going door to door, people are telling me they're fed up. R's, D's, I's, they're fed up with everything.
And you've been, and you've even when you had it, you kind of were.
I've said the same thing.
You've always been kind of uncomfortable with that, right?
Right. And I'm starting to see more and more people wanting the right person. Kind of like, in other words, just because a party puts this person up, like I said, if you were to run, I know you, I know what you can do, I know your ambitions, I know your. That's what people are starting to look into. Not because they're just thrown up by a party. They're looking at, what have they have done? Where have they been? You got somebody who's been in town, 20 years, volunteered this organizations, this. That's the guy that you want up on council. Not somebody that's just.
Okay. New Jersey Transit. That's another part of. You were very, you gave that great tale where the governor called you, and we've had one seat ride.
True story.
We had a lot of things in the work,
Mm-hmm.
but so one seat ride. Actually, today is the last train
Right.
for the one seat ride, at least for the time being. Right. There are plans to bring it back, but they're doing with positive control.
Mm-hmm.
So, you came in with that because a lot hinged upon at some point. One seat ride from Roosevelt Park to New York City would be a boom. Everyone can agree. Would be an absolute, especially with the Ryan property, which is literally next door to that train station, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we had a one seat ride 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, everyone would want to live here because your train is
Yes.
literally anywhere in town you can walk to the train.
Yes.
But that's now on hold. That's stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Renovations, that's been on hold.
Mm-hmm.
Parking, that's becoming an issue.
We addressed the parking issue.
Well, it's not. It's in the work, right? Because there's no
Yes.
resolution yet or nothing.
Yes.
So the town's going to try to accommodate that kind of off-street parking.
Yes.
So all these things when you came in, and now they're kind of slowing down. What are your thoughts on that?
That's the way government works. Like I says, that is a true story. Luckily for me, I was sitting in the clerk's office when the phone rang, and Phil Murphy, who? And it was a true story. And he goes, I have your letters. I am here. As you know, I'm making New Jersey Transit one of my top priorities, and I thanked them. With that, he sent his secretary, Samantha, here. I sat here at this table with her. We had a very long talk. I actually went to the contractor up in Maplewood that was actually assigned the contract, and he gave me the blueprints and the cost of everything.
Okay.
I sat here with her, and I explained to her, I says, the contract to fix the station was $2.7 million. And that was just towards the end of the Christie administration, and he put a kibosh to everything. There was like almost $40 or $50 million still left in the budget. So 2.7 was a drop.
Right.
You know, to get it done. And luckily for me, a year ago, September, when we had the Arts Festival, we had that group of dancers that are in wheelchairs that they actually walked and wheeled themselves from the Union train station to here. And I went ballistic.
And why is that? So people...
Because our train station's not handicap accessible.
Right, okay.
Not handicap accessible. And I saw when I was a police officer, the elderly trying to bring up their suitcases to get up on a platform.
There's no elevator even, right?
No, there's nothing. You have to
the
walk.
stairs.
It's stairs. It's all stairs. So I talked to the contractor. Matter of fact, he called me a couple of weeks ago to find out where we went. The gentleman that I was dealing with, he no longer works for New Jersey Transit. So I went back to the other individual. I called him a few times. As a matter of fact, I just deleted the message today from July 24th.
He was supposed to come in August, right, I think?
Well, what happened was that was the original plan.
Okay.
So that was the message. So I got a hold of him. He sent me an email about, please be advised that, it's on hold. We are still getting the development team up. We are getting it because they want to do it all at one shot. Because as you know, I don't know how they're going to do it unless the train station where you walk up and you have to go to the left or the right is where they're going to put a hole to go with the elevator up that way. Because the only other way I see it, which I think is going to be trouble, is at either Locust Street and Chestnut Street, right on the street.
From the street.
On the street. And I just see kids in an elevator going up and down 24/7. So transit is working on it. They are supposedly having a team, and tentatively it should go out hopefully by the end of the year. That's what I was told.
So what do you say to people who say, "Oh, I've heard this all before, man. You keep saying that, and but nothing's happening." And
I'm on the phone.
Okay.
I'm on the phone.
And to be frank, you've had help from members of council, Councilman Diorio,
yes,
Councilman Fahuri.
Yes.
They've all tried, and
I have reached out to Senator Kane.
Okay. State Senator Kane, right?
State Senator Kane.
Who's a Republican?
I'm not.
You've had Congressman Payne in here, right?
Yes.
Right.
I have dealt with him. I will call, like I says. I have the governor's secretary on speed dial. I have talked to her numerous times, and she got that gentleman to call me the following morning at 8:30. So I will be staying on top of it.
And just touching upon that now that you're independent, how scary is it, or how do you go? How scary and how freeing is it to be independent now, knowing that you don't have that automatic connection of, hey, I'm a fellow D?
Yes. Look, I'm a big boy. We know how games are played. Okay. If you're the D and you've got the horses on that end, fine. But the name of the game is, we're all here to get one thing. We got to get it done. So if it's the D's, the R's, or whatever, I'll take whatever help I can get. And which I've had. I've had, like you said, Councilman Diorio, Councilman Ford, the Republicans. Right. But they got the same interest that I do. They want to get the train platform fixed, because I told the governor, I says, God forbid somebody gets up there, gets hurt, or dies, that $2.7 million is going to get eaten up just in lawyers' fees just for the deposition.
Right.
So fix it.
Right.
Fix it. And he promised, and the secretary promised me that they would.
Okay.
So I will be on the phone.
All right. And you talked about what you've done to improve the business district and business as a whole. But you're going to be in office. You're going to look to be in office. And if elected, what do you have? Do you think what you're doing is good enough? Do you think you should do
Never.
more? And what do you do?
Never.
What do you think doing more would mean to help the businesses?
Okay, number one. Okay. I don't want to get into the silly season stuff, but when you go down and put out that I am reintroducing myself to the businesses, I go into the businesses and I've actually, has this person been in here? No.
And do you frequent businesses in town?
Oh, I was at Dowling's. I was down at Dowling's last night. I'm going there tonight to celebrate after we get done. Okay, the diner. I'm in the diner. You know, I'm in Costas. I'm in here. When you
and not just during this.
Oh no,
election
I'm there.
season. Okay.
No. I've been supporting the businesses as best I can since I've been living in this town.
Okay.
My whole life, when I lived on Pershing Avenue with my parents, I bought my house in 1986. I buy from Roselle Park. I am down on Chester Street every day, just about every day. Okay, the dry cleaners, Joe and Jody's, Teddy, 32 years I dealt with him. Okay, Justin Hill. Okay, I'm in there. The liquor store, Dowling's, Costas, Vintage, the diner. I even go to Orchard twice a year to get my pedicure and manicure. Well, I don't do manicures, but my pedicure.
Okay.
In order to do it, to do the walk, you got to do the talk.
Okay.
If you're going to talk, you got to do the walk. You just can't go down there because. Do yourself a favor. Go ask the businesses. Has this person ever been in here? All of you. Well, yeah, he came in because he asked for a favor. You know, it's silly season. Really? Well, I have a track record. I'm there.
Okay.
I support my businesses. I go out of my way to support my businesses. And a lot of times I get criticized because, I only buy so many pizzas. I can only buy so many pizzas. Oh, geez, when was the last time? Well, I bought from Mimi's, I bought from Costas, I bought from Francesca, I bought from,
Right.
Joe's. So, I'm trying to, make the round here. I don't give everything to just one pizzeria. Right. And, and you get chastised for that. I can only buy so many pizzas. And instead of going to Subway, when I'm here at lunch, I go down to girls and Ken, we go to Chestnut Hill Market. He makes a great sandwich.
Right.
He makes a great sandwich. So in order to do the walk, you got to support the businesses. You got to be there to sit back and say, hey. And there's times, hey man, I'm here for lunch. You want to talk about, you got a problem with the Mayoral, let me eat lunch first. Okay, because I don't want to get agita. Okay? Hit me up in a few minutes, when I'm done with my lunch.
Okay.
Or better yet, I'll come back and, what do you need? You need this? When the other guy took over the dry cleaners, he had a problem with the water coming back. I brought the plumbing inspector in there. This was the problem. It was all linted up. Okay? So it's hands-on. It's supporting. That's the biggest thing. You got to support these people.
So is that what you see as what you can do to help the business district
Sure.
to stay involved?
Sure.
Okay.
Because I'm there. How do I know if I'm, I'm a small town. We're in a small town. I look at sometimes, geez, I wonder if the mayor of Elizabeth, takes dog complaint calls. The mayor of, Linden, does he?
Up until recently, you were our animal control officer.
Yes.
The mayor was the animal control
That was another great
officer.
thing that we've done. The gentleman that's taken over now is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. 24/7. Unbelievable.
Do you sleep better now?
Mimi's.
Do you sleep better now?
Yes.
That you don't have to
Yes.
bring the cage out to someone's house?
17 cats.
Wow. Really?
17 cats that were taken out of a Mimi's house.
Wow.
What a house. I don't want to...
Right.
Okay? 17. Alex Balban was there. We had an incident, like I told you, the night that they thought the cat was dead.
Right.
The woman came and did it. So now we have to try to figure out some way to kind of like make her like an employee or something, because if she's doing it, for gratis for us.
Right.
And these are all things that... Now, that was another thing. Animal control. When I first came on, we were doing like $30-something thousand a year for Newark Humane Society.
Right.
First year on, I contacted Woodbridge. We brought it down to 18. So there was $12,000 that we saved right then and there. Plus, the reason being is because I said I would go out and do it.
Right.
Pick up the animals, so forth and so on, instead of bringing them in charge of that. So that was a maintained fee and everything. And now, we went from 18 down to 5.
Okay.
Taxpayers, they're getting what they want, the service that they want, and we just saved them. We just saved the taxpayers another, what, 18, 5, 12 grand, 6. I'm sorry, 13 grand.
So you said your vision is to stay involved, and we just recently, the borough recently hired an economic development
Yes.
director. So what would you say to someone who says, "Okay, you're doing the work. Why are we hiring this person?"
No. I was doing the work.
Okay.
Now she's doing the work.
Okay.
Because now that's a go-to person.
Gotcha.
Because that's her job. It's not my job to be, yes, I am the mayor. And everybody thinks I could take a magic wand and just wave it and get things done. To a certain point, I can. Certain times, I can't. She is now the person in charge that you go to directly to her to handle the situation. I will be taking her out, walking her to the different businesses, so forth, and explaining to her because...
And she has experience with that kind of...
she's got a ton of experience. When I read her resume, it was like, wow. She blew me right out of the ballpark. But see, knowing what I know, growing up in this town, I walked that beat for 6 years. Day in, day out, cold, rain, sleet, hail. I walked that beat. I know what goes on out there. And I know that the biggest problem, and it's always been, is what are you going to do for me?
Right.
We have landlords that don't even live, they live on the West Coast. They don't even, the only picture they see is what they see on Google.
Right.
Or they don't know the businesses. I've had businesses, what are you going to do for me? Well, just come in and talk to me. I want to sit down and talk to you. This is what I want, to make things. And all we ask is just do me a favor. Go out and water the flowers in the summertime. That's all I ask. But now we have the economic developer. She's getting her feet wet, but she's diving right in. And I think it's going to be a thing where now, when these developments come in, because when the Sullivan property was up and going, one of the things was I was getting these people were texting me about these food courts,
Okay.
so forth and so on. Fine. I don't know what the developer. Maybe he's already got 6 stores already lined up.
Right.
I don't know. But now I have a person where I can worry about street development. I can worry about trees coming down. I can worry about this. Where now she can go sit down with the developers and she can say, look, this is what we need. This is what we would like.
And at first, to be honest, you were kind of hesitant. You were like, I don't really think we need it. And
No.
But as time went on,
No, you're absolutely right. Because basically, I'm saying to myself, well, but
I'm doing
I can't.
Right.
I can't.
Okay.
I'm
So that's an
spreading
instance
myself
where
too thin.
you've changed, right? As time went on.
This is where I compromised.
Okay. All right.
This is where I compromised. At first, I didn't really want to go for
Right,
the
because
for
you
the
actually
price
said,
tag.
"Hey, that's a big price tag." I don't think
I didn't want to go for the price
Right.
tag, but from what I've seen, from what I've read, from what I hear, and from what I'm hoping, we're going to get the bang for the buck.
Okay. All right.
So,
So the constant favorite of everybody, those property taxes and the municipal budget. So over the years, they've gone up and down. But like you said, this year has been the lowest.
lowest in 17.
I personally was surprised. I couldn't. I followed these things since I've been here, and
Really?
I was really just because the previous year they were kind of high, but they've really stabilized, and the increase has been phenomenal. Like you said, people don't. At the end of the day, they don't go, "Oh, I'm so glad I'm only paying for it." At the end of the day, it's like, this is my new tax bill. I don't care where it's coming from. I'm pissed at somebody.
Right.
Right. So, what are your thoughts on what you've done to work with to make taxes and the budgets over the year to keep a close eye on what's being spent and what's being used in services?
This is the important job of not only the mayor but everybody else, to sit down with council. we start with the budget meetings, to come in and say, hey, just because one department has it, that doesn't mean another department's going to get it. It's called shared. We sat back and we have to bring everybody, to the table to understand.
And to be fair, this is the only time I've ever known where they have their public work budgets workshopped in public. And
Mm-hmm.
you have department heads come in and in public talk about what they need, and
Right.
council talk. So you've done that. I mean, that's not something you've done. It's been
No, it's
since
been
forever.
done 10 years I've been on.
Right,
Yes.
since forever.
Yes.
And even before, like you were on, right? It's been, but you said bringing people together, bringing in the
Right. In other words, bring people in. Okay? Everybody's got a wish list. Okay? Everybody's got a wish list. So we bring the department's head in and we say that, well, wait a minute. You want this, but last year we gave you that and you didn't spend it yet. So what's going on here? So we bring the professionals in, okay? We bring the department's heads in, okay? And we look at everything, basically line item by line item. The bigger departments,
Right.
okay? Police, fire, so forth and so on. All right? So when we come in and then we start looking to say, hey, really, maybe you can tweak it a little bit, and do this and do that. So a lot of times we work with the department heads. The department heads work with us, and sometimes mayor and council just says no. Mayor and council sometimes
that's the job, right?
Right, that's our job. As much as we want to give everything everybody.
And sometimes you got to make the spend. Like last year, which was a huge $700,000.
$700,000
for radios.
Right.
Right. I mean, it was bringing them up to the digital age. It was making better communications. It was for safety reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, that was $700,000 that no one
Right.
expected to come in. So stuff like you said, sometimes you're going to say no, and sometimes you got to say, I have no choice, folks. This is
Right.
We have to do this.
We have to. Because in other words, if something happened in Roselle Park, we couldn't talk to the surrounding towns.
Right.
So if I got mutual aid coming in, we need to talk to each other.
And how do you convey both of those to residents and to the departments? It's like, no is no. We can keep talking about it, but
Mhm.
people voted for us to say yes or no, and we're
Right.
saying no.
But again, if you go back to some of the other questions I said, the biggest thing that you have to do is you have to start educating. You have to sit down and explain to people. Folks, let me ask you a question. Your house is on fire. And here comes, the Union fire truck. If they can't talk to our guy, they're not going to come put your fire out. So you got to educate people. This is the name of the game. And besides, some of these things we have no control over. The county said we're changing the frequency.
Right, and that's what it was. It's the county came
Right.
in and said,
I have no
everyone's changing.
control over that, unless I am not going to put people's lives and property in danger to say we're not going to spend the $700,000. But luckily for us, we were able to rob Peter, pay Paul, cut here, do this, and we were able to do that.
And you talked about educating people. So how have you tried to educate the people
Talking to them.
of things?
Talking to them, trying to sit back and say, here, folks, this is the name of the game. When you go door to door, you try to explain to people, folks, this is the name of the game. Or better yet, okay, how many times have we said it in the 10 years I've been on council? Folks, take the time and come to the council meetings. Come to the budget meetings. So, it's a sad day when you got a $16 million budget. And I don't count you and Jake.
Right.
I don't count you and Jake because you guys are there. When you got 3 people at a budget meeting, and I do a trap, neuter, and release ordinance, and I got 21 people there.
And it's interesting. We'll get to that later of how some things, some quality of life issues, become rarely, and other things like we were talking about at this past meeting. You had a redevelopment which would basically change the town
Mhm.
if you agreed upon it.
Yes.
And that same day you had an ordinance on when people can start or stop doing work on their house.
Mhm.
And you got, basically all of you got yelled at or phone calls, right? So it's interesting, like how do you deal with that where you like something you think, hey folks, this is really important, our budget, it's really important.
Yeah.
But like you said, trap note release or the start times, and people are like, you do that, and you know what? I'm not voting for you. I'm taking like, how do you deal with that?
That's a very tough question, and you try to do it the best you can. But you.
It's hard gauging the public, right?
Yes.
For what they feel important and what it isn't.
Right, because you got to understand something. You got the person over here that wants to cut because he doesn't want the taxes.
Right.
Then you have the gentleman over here that's paying 15, 16, 17,000, and he wants everything
Right.
because he's paying that tax.
Right, and people have said that. They said, for the tax I pay, I want fireworks. For the tax I pay, I want bulk. For the tax I pay,
and people don't understand. If you eliminate fireworks, you know what I'm doing? I just took $3 out of your taxes. I took $3 out.
Okay.
So these are the qualities of life. Are the things that you sit back and say. Like I told you, if I eliminated the garbage, DPW, and 2 cops, I'm saving you about $400 to $500 in your taxes, and you're paying $15,000 now, or 12. Or 7, because you got people. I think the last time I looked, we had a few people still around the $8,000 a year property tax. We've got people in Ozone Park that are paying in the low 20s.
Yeah,
there's a big difference. So you think that guy in the low 20s, he's going to say $3? I want my fireworks.
Right.
But the guy at 8,000, he says cut them.
Right. Okay. So audits, they're kind of, along with budgets. Budgets are, I've told people, 95% of what we spend are decided in public, with everyone wanting to come and no one comes.
Mm-hmm.
But when they start putting up when you start setting those resolutions of paying these people and these people, you're like, you're taking money. It's like, this is money that was decided upon in April.
Mm-hmm.
Like with roads, it's like, oh, why are you spending that much money? It's like, this amount was already budgeted. We're just making it a reality. It's already gone. You when the bill went out, you paid for that, and people kind of like don't understand. They're not educated as to that.
Right.
But with stuff like that, audits are the second thing. The audit is where someone comes in and says, "Hey, Borough of Roselle Park, we looked at your stuff. You're doing good, or you need to fix this." And those are important because they, in turn, have affect our rating, which helps when we take out bonds, the stability of the borough. Right? There's a grading. What are your perceptions on those audits as they've changed over the years since you've been in
Thank
council?
God for them.
Okay.
Because without them, we don't know what Peter and Paul are doing.
And that's been a lot of the audit. Most of the audit has come back positive. You're on the right track, but there've been kind of corrections.
There has been. The auditors come in, okay, and they say, well, this is not bringing in what it should be. We look into that. This is doing great. Keep it up. And the auditor also makes sure that if there's X amount of dollars in column A, there better be X amount of dollars in column A. And the auditor also brought out, a few years ago, we were with one of the departments. We found that the money, and pleased that it wasn't being deposited on time.
Which is important. Like people weren't like keeping the money, but
in other words, any cash that we receive in the borough has to be deposited within 48 hours.
Right.
Okay, barring Saturday, Sunday, so forth and so on. So the audit showed that there was times, it was a week, 2 weeks, that the money was being deposited, which is technically a violation.
Right.
So what we did, and it was, no fault of, there was no criminal
there's no
intent.
malicious, right?
There was no malicious,
It's like, I'll get to it.
So what we did, we decided that on certain events, we would have our people go out and do it to make sure it was done right. That's where the auditor came in and said, this is what you need to do. We have an audit, the last audit that we just did, there's one department that is lacking considerably, and we are now looking into that.
Okay. And
so it gives mayor and council, look folks, you're doing great on all this, but over here you're lacking. So now mayor and council has to look at why are we lacking, and now we have to take that and we have to control and how to fix it.
Okay. All right. So So you welcome that?
Oh,
a separate set of eyes to say, hey.
I wouldn't start the year off without the audit.
Okay.
I wouldn't. No, the audit, number one, because it means that everybody basically is doing their job.
Okay. And so looking back, your 4 years, right? You came in. Carl Hokanson. Is there anything you think you could have done differently, or as mayor, or approached in a different way, or done better? And if you could have, what would you have done differently? And perhaps you can say, I did a great job, folks. I'm 100%.
No, I didn't do a great job. I didn't do a poor job. Maybe a mediocre job. There's always, I can't second guess myself. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. I learn from my mistakes.
Okay.
I learn from my mistakes. I move on. If I have to apologize, I will apologize. But it's a learning experience every day. But again, it also means who you're working with, what type of counsel. Sometimes it could be just totally butting your head to go nowhere, because like I said, it takes four people, no matter what they are, to get something done. But I have done, I feel what I felt is best for the borough and for the people. I will continue that way. Hopefully, I will try to be a little bit more cautious on some of my.
What do you mean by that?
In other words, just we can do this. Boom, boom, boom. Well, let me research that.
Okay.
Let me look at this. Let me think about it. Because I just don't need to. Like in other words, I want to sell the soil rights. All right, we'll just sell them. Well, maybe we should get an RFP first. Maybe we should find out, the pros and the cons.
Okay.
So forth and so on. To look and say, hey, we're doing good. Let's keep on the track, and give a good pat on the back once in a while to the people that are doing their jobs and taking care of things and making the borough run efficiently. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And now comes the big question. This is the big one. During your first term as mayor, there have been a lot of major newsworthy. Personally, since I've been here, I think it's the most. Oh, we'll hold off for a second. Hold on. We're gonna pause for a second. You good?
I'm just finishing up.
Oh, that's okay. I was just calling you to see how it went.
It's going well. It's going well. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Bye. She wanted to come.
Oh, it's okay. We're now back. We were interrupted for a moment, but so this is the big question. Like I said, since I've been here, I think these past 4 or 5 years have been a lot of newsworthy, or let me rephrase that. News and important things. Anything from, and here goes the list: the Kneeling Soldier Monument, Christmas tree lighting, removing of the Roselle Park First Aid as the borough's first responder, new borough clerk, new construction officer, backyard chickens, a change in the awarding of professional contracts. In other words, where you interview before you used to.
Just a point. Just accept it on the basis of what they were. Yes.
And the townwide reval. That's just to name a few. I mean, I'm sure as we talk, we can discuss others, but that's quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
From the townwide reval, which was unpopular, to the Leaning Soldier, which made people take sides, let's say, to the removing of the Roselle Park First Aid, which was very, let's just say it left, hurt feelings and a bitter taste in people's mouths.
Some.
If you want, we can go through them like bit by bit. But for you, what stands out as something that was?
I'll take them.
big?
Okay. Newsworthy events. What happened? The Kneeling Soldier. Okay. Yes. I was in an event. I saw this, and I bought it. And my mistake was, I went to each library board member individually, and says, "Does this offend you in any way?" And I explained to me, and I did my research. It's a marker, even though it's in the shape of a cross.
Right.
It's a marker. Okay. I did have the DPW put it up. Took them all of 20 minutes. and the controversy started. And it went on and on and on and on. You know, it took sides. Yes, it did take sides. It was lawsuit cities, this and that. I had 6 attorneys that were willing going to help me.
I mean, it got so bad that, and everyone knows it was public information. The councilwoman at the time was the person,
Yes.
and who objected.
Right.
I mean, there were very vile things
Mm-hmm.
said to her, and you know,
Yeah, said to her and said to me, yes.
and threats,
Yes.
right? And
Mhm.
and I mean, that's how I'm giving an overview of that's how divisive and ugly it got. Right.
Yes.
It got to that point where
Yes.
people were making on a woman who, whether you agree with her or not,
Right.
was following something and was vile things were
Yes.
said, right? And
No, true. I also got the threats and so forth and so on. So what happened was it finally came to a vote at Mayor and Council. And it was approved 3-2 to keep it up.
Right.
I took it down the next day. I called and says, enough is enough. Let's end this. And I found a new home for it at the Church of the Assumption. And I thought that was the end of it. Well, lo and behold, that person decided to continue with the lawsuit, even though it was taken down. I figured, you know, to me, well, she won, but it didn't go that way, and there was a monetary value that was paid out. I think it was like 14 and change, you know, to settle it, and that's what happened. So yes, I made a mistake. I thought I was doing the right thing. I made a mistake. I learned from my mistakes.
Okay.
Next time, that's why a little birdie on this shoulder was telling me, from now on, ask. So that's what I did.
Right. Because at the core, and I've
Right.
made this criticism all along, is that beyond the religious and the freedom of religion and the rights of the Constitution, you know, my criticism of you was you didn't ask. If you had just asked,
Right.
then
In
it would have
other
been on
words,
the record, and then, right.
I asked, but I asked the wrong way.
Right. And the wrong
I
people.
asked the
right,
wrong way. And
Right.
I went to each individual board member instead of saying, go to the library board meeting on the new business. Hi, I'd like to donate this thing to the
Or even
library
council,
board.
because it was on the outside, and the outside is the borough, right? So-
Right. So in other words, yes,
Okay.
I asked, but I asked in the wrong way.
Okay.
Now, when it came time a couple years ago, which it should be up hopefully within the next few weeks, the Purple Heart Monument, I went to the library.
Right.
Here it is, folks. Here's everything in black and white.
And legally, you didn't have to.
No.
But
No.
I
But-
guess you learned that's where you've
You
learned.
learn from my mistakes. I
Right.
learned from my mistakes
Okay.
because I didn't want anybody to sit
It's
back
on the
and
record.
say, hey. So it was on the record. It was approved. I got a phone call that the monument is done. The pad, I'll be put on the record. The cement was donated from the cement truck that were going up into the Monty site.
Right.
He dumped it in there for free. So these are little things to save the taxpayers a few dollars. So yes, I learned from my mistakes, and now I don't do nothing without bringing it to the committee, and then the full mayor and council or whatever organization is done.
And just I've touched upon the things you were involved in, because there were other things that, like, personally, the reworking of the library grounds, right? That was, Councilwoman had taken that, and that's beautiful.
Right.
That's a beautiful actual tribute
Mm-hmm.
to the name of the library.
Right.
It's the Veterans Memorial Library.
Yes, sir.
It gives, and everyone agrees that that's one of the most beautiful, but I was just touching upon things where you were involved in, and I didn't want to bring that up because I don't want to give credit to say you did it, because
No, we all did.
Right, you all did it, but
We all did. In
right.
other words, but see, what I also did was when we got this thing growing, I contacted an individual that lives in town that has credentials as being an architect, landscaper, and he did it free of charge.
Right.
He did it free of charge. So did I say taxpayers' money? Was it me? Yeah, I helped, but we all did. Because eventually, as I've said it in the beginning of the meeting, halfway through the meeting, it takes 4 people to get it done.
Right.
And with the research, we did, we added the merchant marine
Right.
on there. So yes, it is a focal point. And when this whole thing hit the news things, we had people come up from Texas, and it says it's one of the most beautiful libraries I've ever seen.
Right.
So there's good and there's bad.
Right, and so the Christmas tree lighting, and again, although that wasn't a bad thing, it was soon after the kneeling soldier, and it kind of, they were tied in together, although they were kind of separate.
Mhm.
you know, what are your thoughts on that, on the Christmas tree?
First of all,
And for those who aren't aware,
The-
it used to be called the holiday tree lighting.
holiday tree lighting. And
You made the decision to say,
My first year when I came on, in January, okay, in November, I spoke to the council person and I said, look, this is what I want to do, and I don't want to get into it. It's okay, whatever. Blah, blah, blah.
well, the understanding was the councilwoman again, and it's
Right.
public knowledge, had the understanding that you were going to do that next year, and you're like, oh, we're going to call it Christmas tree this year.
No, right from the beginning.
Okay.
I'm going to call it the Christmas tree lighting
Right.
because, again, learning from my mistakes, I did the research. And a Christmas tree is not considered a religious item going back to the days of the biblical days. So I did my research. I talked to scholars. I went and I talked to the priest. I talked to the minister. The Christmas tree is a Christmas tree. This is a bottle of water. It's a Christmas tree. So that's what I'm changing it back to. And, okay. And lo and behold, it turned into an issue. But again, it brought the people, and that's one I would probably say when the day comes that I'm no longer here, and they look at the bunting on the building and they say, "What's that for?" And I said, "Oh, that's that Mayor Hokanson back in the days." He goes, "Oh, he brought the Christmas tree thing back, because that's and you see it. I mean, I go back 5 years ago. We had maybe 100, 200 people show up, hot chocolate, everybody would leave. Now we turned it into a festivity where now, again, this is why you compromise. This is why you learn. This is how you listen. Santa Claus will be coming earlier because the little kids were getting cold and getting tired. So you compromise.
And you've added the menorah.
Yes, we added the menorah.
Which, for the life of me, I reported on it when it came in. For the life of me, that didn't get a lot of pushback. And just for the Supreme Court had ruled that although they are religious symbols, they've become such a commonplace in American life that they're kind of not.
Right.
Everyone understands it, but a Christmas tree for a kid means Santa's coming.
Right.
Menorah just means, it's just the candles.
Right.
So, although they're based in religion. So you did put the menorah, very respectful. Again, times have changed, right?
Yes.
And so you've done that.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just talking about. So you've done that. You've gone more into that.
Right. So I can honestly say I'm happy to say I got rid of that old ugly looking tree.
That was another thing they had. That was a stump.
That was ugly. Okay.
And there's two.
Well, no, the one that was cut down.
No, but now there's two.
Now there's two.
Right.
Two beautiful trees that were never done in the past.
Right.
So we did the 1 year. Then we did the second. Last year we did 3. So this year it'll also be 3.
Okay.
Because the Girl Scouts, they call that the Girl Scout tree, the little one in the back. And the Girl Scouts approached me, and I says, I don't have a problem. I asked council, blah, 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 no problem. I went out and I bought the lights myself because it was like a couple days before the tree lighting service. So this year we added into the budget, when the trees get decorated, they will be done professionally with the third tree, which will be the Girl Scout tree.
All right.
So yes, I can honestly say that will probably be my legacy. When the bunting is hanging, and they say, "Oh yeah, he brought it back," and it turned out, and this is what's great. Okay, the police, the fire department, hot chocolate, pizza pies, games. It brings everybody together.
Okay.
So yes, I can say that. Yeah, there was a little tension, there was a little heat, but if you look, and like I said, even with the kneeling soldier, there was a lot of controversy over it, but I had about an 80 to 85%. I had people actually wanting to donate, but I said enough was enough. Let's move on, and that's what happened. I took it down. I gave it to Father Jim. It's up on Westfield Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And
On private property.
On private property,
Right.
church's property. But again, it wound out that some people want other ones, so whatever. But
The removing of the first aid.
the first aid squad. Okay.
And for those, Roseville Park had a volunteer first aid squad,
For 75 years.
and it was on Laurel Avenue,
Laurel Avenue.
next to the fire department.
Yes.
And last year, August around this time, actually, maybe last year, the vote was made to not do away with it, but to remove it as the first responder in
Right.
case of medical emergencies.
I was a member of the Roosevelt Park First Aid Squad back in the 70s. And we had a lot of volunteers, a lot of dedication. Over the years, as we said numerous times in this interview, things have changed for both good and bad. Volunteers are getting tougher and tougher and tougher. Not only for first aid, fire, Little League,
I mean, this
Pop
week
Warner.
we got a volunteer fire department who doesn't live in town, firefighter,
Okay.
right? They
Right.
live in Elizabeth.
Right.
But you're saying so volunteers, right?
Right.
Getting
It's getting tougher and tougher and tougher. It was getting to the point that it was so bad that we made arrangements with the county to cover us from 7 in the morning to 7 at night, Monday through Friday.
and this has been for a couple of years, right?
Yes. I don't want to hash up old things. First Aid Squad came to us with a proposal. We told them this. You needed $60,000 up front, and we said you're not getting it from the taxpayers' money. They said they had the money, the whole 9 yards. We says, look, if you put up this money and it doesn't work, you're out to 60 grand. So we went back and forth, and I don't want to hash up old things, but if anybody wants to, I'll be more than happy to sit down one-on-one and explain to them that the squad was supposed to cover from 7 at night to 7 in the morning and on weekends. It got to the point that there was 1 month that I think it was the month of May, there was 18 calls on the weekend. First Aid Squad responded to only 2. I have said it over and over again, my number one priority in this borough is safety. We try to make an agreement with the First Aid Squad. You do this, and all we asked for was a 3-month trial period, and they said no. But again, I don't want to get into this, okay? So one thing led to another, that it was voted on council, I think it was 5-1. 5-1. There was only one person, I think, voted against it. So I didn't eliminate it. Council did. But again, I'm a big boy. If it came to a 3-3
If it came to a 3-3 tie,
I
let's
would
say.
have broken it.
Okay. And you would have voted.
I would have voted to bring the county in full time.
Okay.
I mean,
Is there anything you just on a personal level, because you had friends and even
I
family
have
members
I have
right?
my family.
who were in, and they were deeply
Yes.
hurt.
Yes.
Is there anything you'd want to say to them, or to the people, who will say, and again they'll say there was some backroom, and I'm one of them, not about the backroom deal, but I feel that giving a building that we still own for $0 to an outside entity, to me, and that's just me personally, was not a good deal. But let's say someone goes a step further and they say, and I don't believe this, that there's some backroom deals you did with the county, one hand washes the other, we're doing this, and you threw the first aid under the bus.
Wrong.
Well, what do you say to the people who are hurt and are looking for any kind of reason to keep it going, and they thought they could
Folks,
count on you?
Folks, all I can sit back and say is let's look at the statistics. When you have 18 calls and you only respond to 2, that's a problem. What would happen if mayor and council didn't do what they wanted to do? How long do you think we would last? Okay? And I'm telling you right now, I was a member of the volunteer First Aid Squad. My family, my father-in-law, my brother-in-laws, my nieces, okay? They're all members of that squad.
Yeah.
They did a phenomenal job. But you can't keep the 6 or 7 people that were doing it all the time. It became to a fact that it was a liability factor. I can't take the chance that somebody's having a heart attack and they're not showing up. Look at the statistics. I mean, I can give you calls, I can give you incidences, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
Do you think
They've
it's
had a great record for 75 years. God bless them. They did a great job. They saved this borough a ton of money.
And they save lives.
And they saved lives.
Right. I mean,
But
did
it
that.
got to the point that the lives were now being jeopardized. The lives were being jeopardized. when you don't have rigs showing up, when you have major calls, when now you got to call in other towns. So yes, but again, council voted on it. It was I think it was 5-1 or 4-2. I know, but I didn't vote on it. But I will go on the record to say if it came to a 3-3 tie, because I'm not going to put votes ahead of lives.
And the statistics now show that the
We're what,
response time is
98.4% response time?
And to your knowledge, do you know? And one of the concerns were that because what would happen before, and this was one of the proposals that the first aid had put, that it would be kind of a charge, no charge, where if you were a resident in town, you wouldn't be charged, but then they would go through a service that if you were out of town, they would charge.
We sat down with them.
Okay.
We went through that. At first, the figures were wrong. But again, that's why I rely on my chief financial officer. We sat down with them. And says, look, folks, no problem. We'll give you a 3-month trial period. But you got to do it from 7 at night to 7 in the morning. The answer was no.
And then now the county, and again, I've yet to find anyone to substantiate that. The fear is that residents are now going to get charged for calls to you. And again, educating people. What happens is, if the way it used to be, first aid was called. For whatever reason they can't respond within time, then the county is called. If they can't respond within time, then a for-profit ambulance agency will come in and take you, and they will charge you whatever the rate they have, right?
Mm-hmm.
To your knowledge, do you know if the county has charged residents?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Is there no way you could find out? Or
I will call Andy tomorrow.
Okay.
I can't mention names. I will call
bleep it.
tomorrow. No, I'm just saying, because I don't
Right.
like to mention names.
Right.
But the only thing that what's happening is, I am in constant, that's one of my things I can say in the 4 years I've been here that I did not accomplish, was getting rid of Monarch.
Yeah, but that's
Okay.
that's their job, right? That's their business.
That's their job, but under all the other organizations, Robert Woods, Overlook, and those other things, they don't, because Monarch is the only company that will not work with the county, Union County, to do the billing. As far as, in other words, okay, Carl Hokanson gets taken to the hospital, and Monarch is there. The bill is $3,000. The insurance company pays $2,000. So the county would say, look, we'll take $500, you get $1,500. No, they don't do that. Monarch won't do that with the county.
They'll take it all.
No, they take it all. Excuse me. And then what happens is, I've been working with my 4 years as mayor to get rid of them. But there's certain rules, there's certain regulations, there's certain territories that I couldn't.
Right.
But from what I understand, I think you may see a change coming down the pike within the next 6 months.
To go back a little, so a year later, because it's just been a year, emotions are still raw and people are still kind of hurt. They think of you and they think of other councilpeople, and they just, the knee-jerk reaction of feeling hurt.
You know what I say to that, Saul? And I'm going to be crude. I'll tell you right to your face. Okay? You have your loved one laying there, whatever, bleeding, not breathing, heart attack, unconscious, and you sit back and you look at the statistics that show that on the best that they did was 56% of the time. Are you going to roll the dice? Not me. So when that Union County ambulance pulls up and takes that loved one to the hospital and they live or they get treated, that's what I tell the people. I got emotions. I was a member of the squad. My father was a member of the squad. Okay? I have my emotions. But guess what? You got to put those emotions aside. The name of the game is people's lives are at stake.
Okay.
People's lives are at stake. And if something happens, God forbid, that the ambulance didn't show up, and something happens where that person dies, where do you think is going to pay for that lawsuit? What have we been talking about all night? Taxes.
Okay. So new personnel. We've got a new borough clerk.
Mm-hmm.
We've got
Thank God.
construction officer.
Thank God.
And we talked about that, the changing of that and getting the right people. But another thing is, so backyard chickens, that was a huge,
Yes.
and that, again, a quality of life issue,
Quality of life
where
issue.
you had a lot of people taking sides
Yes.
over whether the borough would allow or to be allowed backyard chickens.
Yes.
Um,
And this is where council, from what I understand, doing my research, the gentleman called, spoke to a clerk, and the wrong information was given. So he proceeded to do the chickens. It's funny that in the area that he was living in, nobody complained. Nobody had a problem except for one person.
Right.
And that one person technically has the right, which they did, and technically he was wrong. One, he didn't follow the rules and regulations, so forth and so on. So we try to work with what we could and how we could. But again, the night that we were going to pass the ordinance, he never would have complied with it anyway, because the setbacks weren't wrong. So again, this is where we failed on our job as mayor and council to research this whole thing, get done, because now we relate it on somebody else. You know, what are the setbacks? You know, this. Let me tell you something. I've been there numerous times. It was phenomenal. I think eventually another 5 years, we're all going to have to be doing that the way this world is going, you know, as far as food and everything else.
so you see this at some point changing.
Yes, I definitely see it changing. And my thing is, I have a problem with, the guy lived on 100 block of Bender Avenue. Why is a guy on the west end of town complaining about it? If somebody's got to complain about it, that's when I say you take it to the municipal land use board and you put it out your 200-foot radius, and if your neighbors don't complain.
And there was a resident who had a little teapot
Yeah.
pig,
Yeah.
and this resident went in and paid the $2,000 for all the expenses.
Right. Well, that was the problem.
Right.
This is. I mean, look. I'm not gonna. You know, I can't talk for the man, but he's got a wife and 3 kids. He's struggling, and the biggest
And he honestly
thing
believes.
Is,
He honestly
the biggest thing-
believes.
yes, and believe me. I wish I could put it on my desk to sign it right now. That make it. You know, make the chickens legal. But what happened was, the cost factor as far as the publication and the 200-foot notices, that's where the $1,400 or $1,500 comes in, because each person has to be notified by registered mail.
Then you have to give actual
Right.
legal plans that
which
cost
are-
money.
Right. So
Like, this is where the drainage is going to go. This is where.
I would love to see a You Me Too page or whatever.
Okay.
To have that, you know,
GoFundMe page.
a GoFundMe page.
Me Too is completely different.
In other words, a GoFundMe page to have him come back and do it the right way.
Okay. All right.
And believe me when I'm telling you, I mean, the man is, to be honest with you, as a former police officer, that guy took care of his chickens better than I've seen people take care of their own kids.
And right, that was his thing, that he
As
would
a
educate.
police
He would
officer,
want to educate, right?
He
wants to educate.
is educating people.
Right.
He's bringing the Girl Scouts over there. I went over there with the Girl Scouts. He's educating the people. This is what I do. And he's helping. He's not putting down pesticides. He's helping his neighbors because it's not going into their yards. You know, the bugs are getting eaten. So the man did a great job.
Okay.
And I would love to see him. I would love to have that, you know, chicken ordinance passed again.
All right.
know?
The awarding of professional contracts. So the way it used to work was in December.
Right.
These are the people
No,
who
we would put them out like
Right.
October, November.
and somebody would come in,
Right.
and
No,
then they'd be picked, and then
Right.
they'd be voted on.
Right.
And this year, again, incoming former mayor, council at large, George Iorio, had said,
Right.
I think we should really change it and kind of do an interview style kind of thing.
Yes.
And that's changed
Mhm.
the way. And you even said, you know, it's a lesson learned. You started to be fair. You started out going, I don't think it's such a cool idea.
Right.
And at the end, you actually found the value
Yes.
with the caveat of saying we can learn. There's things that we
Right.
did kind of wrong.
Yes.
So how do you feel about that now?
I totally agree with it.
Okay.
And I will continue if when things go well in November, I will continue that for the next 4 years that I'm here.
Okay.
Yes, it would be that, and with anything else that we need to do, bring the person in. I mean, there's certain things. I mean, if I go out for bulk,
And there's only one
I
person.
get one person. I'm not going to bring this guy in for an interview.
Right.
Garbage contracts. But as far as them working with us,
And professional, like anything from the
professionals.
attorneys, counsel,
yes,
auditors.
yes,
It's a range of people that we're paying basically to do a service that we're not going to pay full time. We save money by doing these things.
yes.
So you're comfortable with that?
I'm
now?
very comfortable with it. And again, that was a learning experience.
Okay.
Compromise.
All right. And the townwide revaluation.
Townwide reval. Okay.
And
As
you
you know-
your taxes went up because of it. Just to be fair.
Mine went up.
After you got revaluated, your taxes hit.
Well,
You hit 10,000. You became the 10,000. You joined the 10K
Well,
club.
there's stories behind that and the reason why my taxes went up. Yes, my taxes did go up. But if I'm not mistaken, if I can quote one of my local source reporters, I think about 40-something% went down.
40 went down. 40 went up.
40 went down, 40 went up, or
And
whatever.
about 20 stayed the same.
Stayed the same. That's it went down. It could have went down $10.
Right.
It went down a couple of hundred, and some went up $10.
It was a
some went up
percentage. It
couple
was
thousand.
right. It was like the 1%. So if you didn't change 1%, it was considered
Mhm.
the same.
Right.
So anything that went up over 10% was considered up and down.
Right.
And to be right, the rule of thumb that everyone kept thinking was 30 and 30.
Right.
And it changed a bit. So 40% of the people were happy.
Right.
40% of the people were pissed.
Right. But see, you got to understand something. That was our fault. That was prior to me coming on. That was prior to the generation before that.
Decades.
It was decades. Back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So when I had a business owner that owned apartments above her business, I said, let me ask you a question. Are you going to give me the same rent that you were charging in 1982? Hell no. Well, guess what? Your property value from 1982 to 2017 just went up. So did your rents go up? Yeah. So why are you yelling at me?
And do you think it was the right thing to do?
The property values went up drastically. You paid, back in the 80s, you paid $50,000 for this property. That was worth $350,000.
And do you think that was the right thing to do?
Huh?
Do you think the townwide reval was the right thing to do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I hope that they do it at there's some towns, there's other, some areas I've talked to, they do it on a quarterly basis. And they do they divide the town into 4 quarters. Some of them do them every other couple of years.
And those are
What?
called assessments, right? Where it's
Right.
not the reval where they went into your house
Mhm.
and they literally looked at your stuff.
Right.
And a reassessment is kind of our assessor
Mhm.
going and doing visual inspections.
Right, and that was another great thing that I can say that I was happy to that we started with the $20,000 for homeowners. The first 5 years is tax free.
Right.
But
That's an abatement.
That's an abatement,
Right.
and now I'm working with her to to do the businesses. That maybe with this new downtown.
So it's something else
administrator.
that's happened in your.
Right. This is now with our downtown business administrator. We can come in and say, look, invest $50,000 and spruce up the front and put up new awnings and make this look nice. We'll give you that, that break.
Okay.
To make it look good. To bring the aesthetics.
And for that, you did have, and also for the TNR, right? That's another one that was kind of popular, and I've had my criticisms of it, but it was the first town in Union County
Yes.
to ever do it. You had public meetings.
Right.
I mean, you did have multiple public, even with the first Meridian, you had I think 2 public meetings
Yes.
where the public was invited, and and you've had your meet and greets, right? And for some of them, they're well attended, and others
Some of them are well attended. Some of them
it's me and my children eating your pizza.
That's okay. I love your kids.
But so, and I'm speaking objectively. You've done those kind of meetings where things that are important. You give TNR. I mean, I was at 3. You had 3 meetings where people didn't show up, and you were like, you had professionals come in, you had explanations. Does it dishearten you when you do that and people don't show up? And do you think you'll change it, or do you think you'll still keep doing stuff like that?
No. Depending on, there was a couple of hot topics with the reval. I remember my first meet and greet, I walked in, I had like 53 people.
Right.
Whoa! There's other times.
And they all
we've
weren't there
had-
for the pizza to give you a
Yeah,
pat on the
that's-
back.
Yeah, and other times, like you said, it was me, your lovely children. But I think now the reason why I see a lot of things now with social media today, a lot of people are getting on the Facebook pages, getting on the Twitters, and they're reading, to the fact. And I still get the phone calls, so.
And people still watch those meetings.
Oh yeah.
But now you can watch them online too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So. Yeah.
So like with stuff like that, where you've tried to be open, you go to meetings and you tell people. I mean, you've said things at these meet and greets. I'm like, oh, that's. I don't know. I didn't know you were going to say that, and you've given information. Do you plan to keep doing those kind of things?
I can only say I'm me. Yes, I will
Okay.
give out as much information as possible. There's some information I do not give out as far as anything to do with a police investigation. I do not give that out unless I get the okay from the
Right.
police chief. Then I put it out, so forth and so on. But I think again, this is the thing that we've talked about over and over again in this interview. We got to educate, and communications I think is the biggest tool that we can use to educate. Those people, again, right, wrong, love me, hate me. At least the information is out there that nobody can sit back and say, "Psst, backroom deal." It's not happening.
One of the very recently was we were talking about these tough decisions. We had a new construction
Mm-hmm.
department,
Mm-hmm.
right, revamped, and vehicles were given to them, and there was a lot of hurt and confusion. Fire department saying these are good vehicles, and some fire vehicles are being they're run down for years. When things like that happen, and people are saying, oh, you're giving it to them for blah 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 whatever reason, who needs what construction company needs a great 4x4 in the middle?
Well, first of all, again, silly season. People flex their muscles. And
But this
blah,
was
blah, blah.
this was before too, right?
Yeah. Okay. So let's get back to the three vehicles. Number one, they were asked for and put in for. Okay. Number one, our construction vehicles were the hand-me-downs to the hand-me-downs. To the fact
They were
that some-
dangerous.
They were dangerous.
They were.
Number two, the inspectors that would go to the houses and go to the businesses, the plumbing, the electrical, so forth and so on, they were using their own personal vehicles. So the JIF got involved, the Joint Insurance Fund, which insure us. Because now if they're in their car and something happens with them, they hit a pedestrian, they drive up on a lady's lawn, who's liable for the damage and so forth and so on. Okay? Plus the fact that with all the redevelopment coming in and the more inspections that are coming in, the inspectors, we extended them from 4 to 10 hours a week. So they're out there. Those vehicles are being used by, you talk about the quality of life, the code enforcement's out there every day looking at grass, looking at this, looking at that. I can't have him out there in his personal vehicle. Okay? Our construction official, he's out there, major inspections. Boom, 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 boom. If the electrical inspector is in, he's using it. If the plumbing inspector's in, he's using it. Okay? Plus the fact that number one, they were asked for. When this whole thing came out, when the budget was started way back when, that department did not ask for any vehicles. Did not ask for a vehicle. Not one. So now all of a sudden, somebody got their feathers in an uproar, and that's when, and me personally, one thing you don't do to me, don't threaten me. Do not threaten me in any way, shape, or form. I'll take off my mayor's hat. I'll put on my civilian hat. You do not threaten. And the threats came out. And I don't tolerate that. Let's work it together. Guys, he's bringing in over $160,000 in permits. That money could buy new cars, and we'll shuffle them down.
And it wasn't, we're going to blow up your house. It wasn't those,
No.
or was it those kind of threats?
No.
Okay.
No, it wasn't those threats. It
Okay.
was about voting.
Okay. It was political threats.
It was political threats.
Okay. All right.
Okay?
Just so people understand that
No,
people
it's
weren't going
not-
to say.
No.
you know.
No. It was a political threat made to members of council.
Okay.
Okay? And eventually, the threat was apologized. Because there's certain things I'm not going to get into. Even when I have my debate, I'll leave it alone. But if somebody wants to come in one-on-one, there's certain things that were said and done and are not being done that lives are at stake.
Okay.
And I'm not going to tolerate that either. But yet, the man is bringing in umpteen thousands of dollars. You see it.
That's a
What?
construction.
That's the
official.
construction official. So far, we're close to what, $500,000? Go back and look at the records. I don't think you're going to see that kind of figures, and we're only going to continue more until eventually that boom is going to it's going to bust. It's going to stop. Okay, then we're going to go back to the you want to put a porch on and so forth and so on. Right now, we're
So let's say
the oils are it's a gusher right now, and
so
eventually it's going to peak. It's going to peak.
You brought that up. That's a good point. So let's say that you become you're mayor, like our Councilman DiOrio, you're the 16-year mayor. After year after year 12,
Right.
we've done the peak.
Right.
Are you going to prepare the town? Because like you said, once that well runs dry, money's gonna those taxes are gonna get up. They're even gonna get
Right.
even more up. We're not gonna have revenue coming in. Do you foresee using whatever funds we have now in a way to lessen that? Because like you said, at some point that's all going to dry up. We're all
Right.
going to get so many buildings. And we're
We
done.
are. I am constantly trying to think of ways, and I sit with my chief financial officer, to think about that. The plan, our 5-year plan. Which, sorry, folks, it just doesn't work because no sooner than you think you got it over here, we get hit with something else over there. But if all were to go well, and these departments were to start doing what the audit says, there could be differences.
Okay.
There could be differences. I don't want to get into it personally because it's personal matters and so forth and so on.
All right. And now we're going to touch upon questions that residents have been writing in. And you're a police officer, and we had a resident ask that the police officers are stationed on Westfield Avenue. They stop motorists for minor offenses, ticketing them. We're the running joke in the town is like, once if marijuana is ever legalized, we're not going to have money because every arrest is a pot arrest, or the ones that are published. And the resident wants to know. The residents' concern were quality of life issues, specifically for drivers not stopping for pedestrians. Everything from not stopping because they just don't think they should to not paying attention.
Okay.
And the resident wanted to know, which do you feel is more of a priority? The kind of, the stopping the motorist for the drug offenses, the minor offenses, the ticketing, or paying attention to the safety of all, including pedestrians.
Okay. Well, first of all, as far as the police department goes, I can't tell them on the day-to-day operations. They're protected under the Title 40. I can go to the chief and say, look, I had a certain person come up. He was trying to cross Chestnut Street. Can you please send the guys down to do the pedestrian crosswalk violations? Okay. As a police officer, to me, I always kind of put a little higher onto the drugs because I don't want the drugs coming into my town. As you know, even when I was on a job, you got Elizabeth, you got Plainfield. This was a major corridor coming right and down. Quality of life issues, it affects everybody. But I think if I was going back to my days as a police officer, if I can keep the drugs and the drug dealers and the guns out of my town, okay, I think the quality of life, the guy with the radio can go. I do agree with you as far as the ticketing of this. We used to bring guys in with roaches.
Right.
It's not worth my time.
Okay.
It's not worth the energy. It's but that's the law. I have to follow what's given me. They have to be arrested. They have to be booked. They have to be fingerprinted. They have to be photographed. A warrant has to be typed out. So now it's not like, quality of life. Oh, you shut off a firework? Here's your summons. See you in court in 2 weeks. Now I got to bring you in. I got to do the whole 9 yards, which I don't want. To me, it was a waste of time. So I'm glad to see we're getting up to the modern age where a lot of this stuff is now being, basically that's not considered a quality of life.
Right.
But as a police officer, seeing both, they're both, but I would lean towards, yes, I want to keep the drugs and the guns out of here. So quality of life issues, again, like I told you the other night at the council meeting, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, if a guy's blasting his stereo and you're sleeping, it's violation of your
Right. Yeah.
your quality of life.
That's actually. Yeah, that's-
You know,
so what would you say to the resident who says, and we did have an accident. We had a fatality right on Westfield Avenue.
yes, I was there.
And we've had, it, especially now as fall and winter are coming in,
Mm-hmm.
the people get off the trains at night,
Right.
6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, crossing streets, cars just barreling through Chestnut Street. I mean, there goes so much to have a decoy vehicle sometimes there.
Mm-hmm.
People still just barrel through. How do you plan to address those concerns? Because that's people are. We want to be a commuter-friendly town, right?
Yes, and we are
Pedestrian
working
friendly.
now with the transit villages and these other grants that we're applying for. Yes, you're absolutely right. That's where we try to get the grants to do the ticketing, the cell phones, seat belts. We try to get as much grants as we can to get the officers out there, to do that. When we have extra men, I will tell the chief, look, go out and do the pedestrian detail.
Okay.
We've had about once a year we get the grant to do the DWI checkpoint, for that. They're all important to everybody, and you see, council is working together, with Senator Kane and the DOT to see what we can do about Westfield Avenue.
Right.
We did a little bit when that poor girl got hit up on Valley Road.
Right. That's
Okay.
right. That was another one. Yeah.
Where that poor girl got hit, it was a blind spot. Now we have signs, we have lightage. What I would like to see, since the railroad track is abandoned, according to my tax assessor, on Friday we looked at the map. There's 3 parcels that are like 300 and something feet long, and there's another 5 parcels that are over 500 some feet long. So I was going to try to talk to council and selling it,
Okay.
putting up homes, because 8 new homes, 10, 12, 14,000 apiece. It's all taxes. When a big boom breaks,
Right.
now we can do that because we can eliminate that eyesore, all them stupid trees and,
Okay.
and the mosquitoes things. Put the sidewalks in, put the lighting in, and get 8 new homes with new taxes.
Okay. And talking about marijuana and stuff like that, there's talk. It's been postponed now, but it's going through states. New Jersey's going to be. What are your thoughts as a police officer and as an elected official on the legalizing of marijuana, and how do you think that'll impact the borough?
I have. It was funny. I had an argument with one of my family members. He goes, "Well, if it becomes legal, so I said, yeah, but it's not good. It's going to lead to bigger, better things." He goes, "Yeah, but you drink, you smoke. It's like it's a vice. So why are you picking on me because I want to go out and have a joint?" As a police officer, and I'm gonna do a Bill Clinton. Yes, I smoked marijuana back in 1970. I tried it a few times, and I haven't smoked it since 1970. Okay, so I have no qualms. I'm not a hypocrite.
Okay.
I have no qualms. Okay, if it's legalized for the money purposes, which again, it's all right. Right now, it's against federal law.
Correct. Even
And the
states that
money
are doing
problem
it,
it's
there's
a
still
thing.
issues.
Even the medical
Banks are not
marijuana,
gonna-
some private are having problems.
Banks
with
don't
some
take
of the stuff.
them.
Right.
They have to have cash.
I don't have. I'm neutral. I can go either way.
Okay.
But as far as legalization, one really has to start looking at it now. You're a school bus driver. Friday night you get off of work. You go out and have a joint or two. That stays in your system for anywhere from 4 to 7 days. Monday morning, are you going to be able to handle that bus? And now, as the mayor, okay, the only way that you can tell if somebody's legally under the influence of marijuana or as a drug is the eye test, the litmus test, where you have to. So now I have to go out now. We have like I think 3 police officers that are trained. Now I'm going to have to go out and train all the other officers, which is going to cost taxpayers money.
Okay.
So I know there was talk. I know there was supposed to be legalized within the first 100 days, but now that's on the back burner. I totally agree with the decriminalization of it. You know, I mean, if you stop a guy and he's got 5 pounds, that's one thing. But a guy with a joint, it's not worth the it's not worth the time of my officers
Okay.
to take them off the street, because now they can be out doing other quality of life things.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So, I'm not a hypocrite, but again, people are going to have to start to realize that, I'm a truck driver. I'm driving an 80,000 pound truck.
Like with alcohol, right? If
Alcohol.
there's a
too.
limit, there's a limit.
limit.
If you're over the limit,
Right.
you're under the influence and it does not
Right.
good. Okay.
So,
Another question was, and this is just a little background. So what had happened was the state has a pay-to-play law. And the
Mhm.
pay-to-play law says if you or any employee or representative combined donates more than $300, you need to. I'm sorry, Roselle Park has that. That if it's over $300, you have to make a list, and it's $200, and make a list, and say we've donated.
right.
If it's under 200, you don't.
Right.
So I could give you $199 right now, right on with just give it to you,
Right.
and no one knows that I gave you money.
First of all, let's go back to pay to play. The pay to play is to do to any type of business.
And that's
with
the other
the
thing,
borough.
right?
You as a local citizen can give me up to $300 without being reported, because you're not doing any business
For contribution, right?
contribution. You're not doing any business with the borough. Now, if you own a printing shop and you want to print up our recycling things, now you're limited to $200. Because if you go back, the state was 3. Going back 8 years ago, under a prior administration, when a certain individual was running, we lowered it to 2. Okay? There was an incident where they tried to bring it back up again.
Right.
And it got snagged.
Right.
Okay? Me personally, I look at it this way. Now that I'm an independent, I do everything on my own. I don't have businesses, but as far as the pay to play goes, I look at it this way. It says $200. So if candidate A goes out and solicits all the businesses and he gets a $200 donation, candidate B and candidate C can't get anything because he has already contributed to $200.
Right.
So maybe they should change the pay to play for the R's, the D's, the I's, and the U's. But me personally, I leave it the way it is.
And have you
Because
had,
I'm not into my campaign this year. I haven't gotten $20, $100, $50. I don't get the big money. I don't get the big money from the counting machines anymore, which I never really did. But I don't get that. I don't get that. And as far as the pay to play, I can see, in today's $200 is nothing. Maybe bring it back up to the state level, which is 3. But again,
have you received any donations from either people doing business or wanting to get contracts or wanting to do
I have not
under the
received,
200?
All right, let me just clarify.
Okay.
Let me just clarify. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Okay, yes, I did. I got 4 checks. And when I was doing my fundraiser, boom, boom, boom. I deposited them. I sent them through the whole 9 yards. So all of a sudden, I started to realize, let me take a look. And I went back, and I received a $300 check from a person who wants to develop.
Okay.
I received a $250 check from a person who wants to develop. I received a $125 check from one of the people that works for that developer, and I received another $125 check from the person that works for the same developer.
Okay.
I returned all 4 checks.
And these will be in your.
It'll be in my when I
your
file
election
my election report.
Okay.
The $300 check was returned, the $250 check, the $125 and the $120. So yes, at that time I did. I returned them. I did not receive anything from any businesses in
Okay.
town. diners, coffee
Contractors.
shops, contractors.
Okay.
No, I have not received anything like that from as of today. My campaign. No, I have not.
Okay. All right. And you said we talked about it a little bit where there's been a feeling with the developments in the first floor being for commercial purposes and even just others that places like supermarkets should be allowed because it would be competition for Chestnut Hill. And
Right.
you said
Mm-hmm.
your response to that was, well, that's
Capitalism.
okay. And you're comfortable with that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie to you. Do I want to see Chestnut Hill go? No. Is he struggling? Yes. Okay. Do I really want to put somebody in it to make him struggle? But again, it's not up to me. The law says that we can, that you can do it, but but again, we restricted it. So I don't have 50,000 square feet, to build a supermarket.
But if a supermarket did come in and says, I want whatever 17,000 square feet, I want to make and they came in, it would be okay with you for them to?
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as it's legal.
All right.
I'm just saying. I don't want to see the small business get hurt. Now, because don't forget, you bring in the supermarket. It's not only going to hurt Chestnut Hill. They're going to bring in their own pharmacist. They're going to bring in their own little flower store shop. It's going to hurt a whole bunch of little businesses. And right now, I'm happy that we only have 2 stores that are empty. I don't need 7 or 8.
Okay.
Because basically they're hard to fill today. Because people, on your app, Carvana, you can buy a car now. You can do a lot of these things now.
But if they came in and it was allowed, that's I guess that's that balance of
Mm-hmm.
wanting to be the friend and the guy, but this is government and this is free market.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Pilot and COA.
Pilot and Co. Very good.
Background: Pilot is payment in lieu of taxes.
Yes.
And COA is affordable housing, where, as it stands, New Jersey law states that municipalities have to have a certain number of apartments for affordable housing. Not Section 8, which is subsidized housing.
Yes.
These are lower rent.
Thank you for
Kind of,
bringing that up.
right. So, what are your thoughts on these as it relates to the reality of Roselle Park today?
Okay.
And can you explain each of these as
Okay.
far as you know?
Let's take Pilot.
Okay.
Okay. As you know, there was a heated discussion on that at the last council meeting. We are in the process of doing a townwide meeting to have the professionals come in. We did notify the board. Andrew sent a letter to the board that it will be a joint meeting that night.
Okay.
Pilot and payment in lieu of taxes. You're absolutely right. And the gentleman that came up and spoke from the Board of Education, he is absolutely right. 95% goes to the town, 5% goes to the county. Nothing goes to the school. Okay, the pilot program was started up about 35 years ago for these blighted areas, the Camdens, the Newarks, the Trentons, these areas that nobody wanted to go into. And to be perfectly honest with you, right now, if the Sullivan property were to be built without a pilot program, his taxes the first year are going to be $1.4 million. Who in their right mind is going to come in and spend $1.4 million in taxes, and the next year 2%, 5%, whatever tax is going to go up? That's the reason why the pilot was made, to give in payment of, where eventually you start off here and eventually you work your way up to full assessment. Okay? Not my idea, state idea, so forth and so on. That's what builders come in for. Because nobody, let's be realistic, nobody in their right mind is going to build on a Sullivan property if the tax is going to be $1.4 million. So that's why we do that. Okay? So, as I told the gentleman before, okay, I'm going to go back to the Damani site because that's the one I'm familiar with the most.
And technically, that's the only one with the.
Romarovsky's
Honestly, has it, but there's been no development yet.
Right.
So nothing's being done.
Right.
The only
Pilot that's
viable pilot right now.
Right now is the Damani site.
Okay. The Meridia at
The Meridia.
Meridia Park.
Right. Okay. The pilot was approved by mayor and council at 10.5% to start out with. Okay. The property that was there, the 5 properties that were there prior to the Meridian site that they bought, there was, I think, the 5 properties were generating about $47,000 in school taxes. What the pilot program is, like I tried to explain to the gentleman before, that desk that he was sitting at is just a plain piece of land. Now you put a building on it. What happens to that land? Value goes up. Now you put a second building on that land. Value goes up. The pilot program kicks in as the rentals get more and more filled.
Right.
So when it's up and running, this is what I'd say, and I'm going to say it again and again and again. When it's up and running, okay, when the pilot program kicks in, they're going to go from $47,000 to $107,000.
So how do you explain that when you said pilot is 95 to the town and 5 to the county?
Because what's happening is we will be getting that, but don't forget the assessed value of the land is now more because of the buildings on it, as to the tax assessor. So that we still have to pay, but it goes back to them where I don't know, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't say how many kids are coming into the school system. I did check with the developer, and he did give me 4 properties that they're in, 4 towns that they're in, and the amount of students that are in. And like I said, in Rawway there's 8 that went into the school system. Okay? So the pilot program is there to benefit the contractor, it's there to benefit the borough, okay? But eventually, the Board of Education is like, they're gonna get more than what they originally were getting, okay? So this will all be explained by the professionals, and I don't care if it takes an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours, if people come in, and again, this is where the biggest problem is gonna come, because you gotta educate people. My school kids are getting screwed. No, they're not. As the gentleman said, our attorney that said to us, every time there's a tax appeal and they win, I still have to pay the full burden to the schools. The schools don't lose. The school's not going to lose. Okay?
Which was another reason for the townwide reval, right?
Right.
Because tax appeals,
The tax appeals were killing us.
I mean, I just listened to an article. It was like about 500,000. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right. And how long are we going to go with that?
And that's
Before-
not counting
before we go-
that's not counting the attorneys you got to pay,
Right.
and the check you still have to write out to the
Right. So
schools.
how long will we go with that before we go broke? Okay? So the reval, yes, it was under the previous administration, and I did vote for it, okay, and I think it worked out great. And I just hope our forefathers in the next 10 years see that and and redo it again.
Right.
But again, you're talking a very costly thing. And if you notice how we save taxpayers' money, we got in at the bottom.
No, that,
Because no sooner than Roselle Park did it, within a year, I got blasted. I went to the Union County Chamber of Business. I had 3 mayors come up to me. You son of a! Now I got to do it, and I got to do it, and I got to do it. We got done with $250,000. We got
Right.
$250,000. They're paying $500,000 to $700,000. So we got it at just the right time,
right.
and everybody benefited from it.
So you're talking about
program,
pilot, right.
So the pilot program will be explained to everybody that night. We are going to televise it. It will be on TV 34 that you can watch at your convenience. But before that meeting ends, I hope everybody has a clear and understanding of the pilot program.
Okay.
Because nobody is going to come in and build without one.
Okay.
Nobody. Unless you're a zillionaire, and even then you're going to be paying out the nose in taxes.
I'm because Hawthorne is not pilot and Mimi's
No.
isn't pilot.
No.
But
No.
they're not
No,
that they're small.
They didn't ask.
Right. Right.
They didn't ask. They're small. They didn't ask. And that's fine with us.
And what
So-
about COA?
COA, Coalition on Affordable Housing. Okay? Again, as mayor, I've talked to other mayors throughout the county and throughout the state. We're ready to pull our hair out of our heads because we have no idea what the the state government's going to do. Some of our
Numbers have changed, let's say.
The numbers have changed. The governor that we have now, he's not doing anything until possibly his second term. It is a very touchy situation. I know that I went to a town meeting in Scotch Plains, and the numbers are crazy. And again, some places, you may come in and say Rosa Park needs to put 70 units or 100 units. So when we originally had the problem with COA, we had the Romorowski site that was going to have 30 something sites, and our senior citizens complex. That would cover our COA obligation. We are protected by law until 2025, but that's only 7 years down the road. And who knows what's going to happen after that, okay? So what's happening is we can ask up to 15% of any of the development. So if you ask...
And that was included in this redevelopment plan?
Yes.
The one that just was approved last week?
Yeah. So basically what happens is if the 15% were to go on to solve a property, you're looking at 54 low-income housing apartments in that development, okay? The figures from what I was told, basically it's around 11.4 would qualify you for for the COA. I will put on the record that the COA does bring in the students because again it's affordable. So some mayors are rolling the dice, some mayors are taking an aggressive stand. Our COA attorney did give us some advice at the meeting on Thursday, but it was just in closed session. I'm really not at liberty to discuss it. But we will be working on any future developments and a percentage that will or will not be going in.
Okay. All right. Again, because like you said, some people are for it, some people are against it. But I guess we'll see how that works out. But just on a personal level with you and so just the affordable housing, say none was asked for the Meridia by Demoni's.
No.
It's been put into this plan, but it's up to. It's not required that they have 15%.
No,
and I guess that'll be done in the agreements
right,
stage.
this will be done with the agreements. We can get 1%, we can get 15%, 5%, 4%, 2%, whatever. Or we can get none.
And that's up to negotiating.
That's up to the negotiations,
Right.
yes.
And so you're feeling on that. So let's suppose council says we want a hard 5% or we want a hard 10% for that property on Sullivan, and the developer says I want 0, and if I don't get 0, well I'm out of here.
That's the negotiations.
Okay.
That's the negotiations. But sometimes I look at it this way. For all the time and effort that you've already put in, and that's going to be a stumbling block. Again, it all comes down to negotiations.
Okay.
It all comes down to negotiations.
But you're without getting into details for legal purposes, there is some sort of plan to keep this in mind with developments as they come along.
Yes.
Right? Because the rule is if you need 100 units and you've got 10 properties, and the first guy says I don't want to do any, so 9 properties have to do 100. Second guy says I don't want to do any. If by the 5th guy they said I don't want to do any, you've got 5 properties that have to deal with 100.
Right. It's not fair to the guy at the end.
Right, and the guy at the end is be like, I'm not the one holding the bag.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying that there's some kind of plan.
Well, you figure right
address
now you have our biggest setback right now is our senior citizens complex.
We're going to talk about that. Actually, I was going to ask you about that. So, senior housing is this.
That we broke ground in 2000.
I took the picture.
We broke ground in 2008.
It's 10 years down the
10 years down the road.
And it's across the street from the high school,
Yes.
where the DPW is currently.
Right.
For information, it's already taken out of our pockets $2.6 million to move the DPW. So it's sitting there, not being used yet because we haven't moved it to where the Ciccarelli, is that what it's called, or the
Behind 200 Webster.
behind right on the corner of Seton and Laurel,
Right.
in that area. So that's where the DPW was going to go, and in place of where the DPW is now was going to be this senior housing across the street from a high school next to a baseball field that was contaminated. Nothing has happened. in those 10 years.
You're absolutely correct.
And from my gathering, it doesn't
The
look
only
like
thing,
things
the
are gonna
only thing
happen.
that's happened in the 10 years, there was the second environmental study that was done.
And that was a part of an issue with funding.
Yes, with the funding, yes.
And it doesn't look like there's going to be anything. I haven't heard any, and again, I haven't heard any news of someone coming in, or Catholic Charities, which is the
Dormers.
Domus is they're the head organization behind that is.
I don't think, I can't get into the legalities because it was discussed, but you will see major changes coming down the pike.
Okay. All right.
You will see major changes coming down the pike.
Which again impacts our affordable housing requirements because that was
Yes,
part of the
that was-
agreement.
See, we originally
2009.
started out with 100.
Yeah, and then went to 70, right?
It went down to 60 because at that time we did everything that we could to try to make the application look good. We cut this down, we did this, we did this, we did this to make the application for HUD look good. Well, HUD didn't give out any money that year. And out of the fact that I can't go any much further than that, but if you notice, and you're very good at it, the borough just allocated $900,000 to finish the cleanup.
Correct, and that was another issue. There was something in 1994 that was supposed to be done that
There was 2 tanks that were removed, and the paperwork was never completed.
never completed, and it cost us.
It's going to cost. We're hoping, as mayor and my chief financial officer, we always shoot high, hoping that we get the low number,
Right.
because then we can always use that for something else.
And what do you say to the taxpayer who says that 2.6 is just sitting around doing nothing? Bring it back.
Well, that's a good question because there are council members that are saying the same thing.
So what do you say? What do you say to that? What do you say to someone who's like,
Well, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Hopefully, next meeting we're going out to bid for the for the building.
okay,
We have to look to see if the taxpayers want to spend close to $3 million for a DPW with 10 guys. So we'll see.
okay,
We'll see. But the biggest thing is we can't do nothing until we get the final okay from the cleanup.
right? That still needs to be done, right?
Paperwork, it's like the job ain't done till the paperwork is done.
So we're at the end now, and I want to thank you again. We've had a really in-depth conversation, and the reason I like this is because it allows you. There's no pat answers. You've given pretty much detailed answers as much as
I hope so.
Yeah. And again, with 51 days, it's going to be 50 days in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
In November, it comes in, and the voters have chosen.
Mm-hmm.
Carl, you did good, but we're going to go a different direction.
Fine.
What do you see for yourself?
I see myself, put it this way, depending on, the way the games are played, okay? I think if that was the case and a new regime comes in, me personally, I think they would be a fool not to try to keep me on as far as doing whatever I could.
Okay.
Put me on recreation, put me on over here, put me over here, because of the connections I have, my drive, the love I have for this town. I think they would be foolish. But if that's the case, come February, I got twins coming. My son and my daughter-in-law, twins. I'll be a happy grandparent. And I'll still do I'll still what I can. My veterans group,
Right.
that I'll be working with. But I think they'd be foolish not to try to keep me on. But again, I'm a big boy. I know how games are played. That's the reason why I'm in a predicament that I am, because I want people to do their job, and I really think that when people hear and see, I've done my job. I didn't cut corners. I didn't slack off. When Sandy hit 5 years ago, whatever it was, 8 years ago, 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
Okay, I was out there for 13 days,
And if you are elected,
morning, noon, and night.
and if you are elected,
And I was told that to get locked up if I was out on the streets.
That's right.
Okay, I've been out, matter of fact, I had to get up that morning and drive almost to Pennsylvania to put gas in my own car because I was using
Oh, that's
my
right. The
car.
rations. Remember?
Yeah, well,
You had
we
the
had
gas
no gas in
rations.
this meeting because
The gas rations.
yeah,
They were
I had to
coming.
drive to almost to Pennsylvania to get gas in my own personal car. Luckily for me, it was a 31-gallon gas tank because I was out there for the 13 days with the with the smoke eaters, disasters. I'm out there. So why would you not want to have a guy with my knowledge and my experience and my connections?
And if you do win, do you see your mind frame in another 4 years, or do you see?
No, I'm going to tell you right now.
Okay.
Okay. When all goes well in November, I will be a 2-term. I believe in term limits.
Really?
I really do.
Oh wow. Okay.
I believe in term limits because after a while, when you start getting into play, you get complacent
All right.
and you start to get lazy, and that's not me.
All right.
I believe in term limits. I will do this term, my next 4 years, and the only way that they would ever get me back here is if 2,000 something people write my name in, and I don't see that happening. So,
All right. Is there anything you'd like to say to the listener and the voter?
Folks, we've had this lengthy conversation with Sal. It's silly season. There's 3 sides to every story. People are going to tell you this. People are going to tell you that. We're going to do this. One of the things that, I have not seen it, and as I said at the council meeting, I have not received one political information on the Republican side of candidates, nor the Democratic side. In the past, they've been very selective on who they give it out to. I heard that there was a flyer out about a train wreck. Let's get us back on track. Well, I have one of the councilmen sitting up there with me for 4 years. So did he help cause the train wreck, or is he going to fix the train wreck? I'm confused. When you sit back and you say, this, and this, where have you been for the last umpteen years? Where have you been for the last umpteen years? There's a lot riding on this. I think, the people will start to see through it. I hope they do. And again, I will not lower my standards. My door is open. I answer my own phone. I live at 318 Hemlock Street. You tell me. I will be there. I have been there. I think I've shown my track record has shown that. I do what I can for the organizations. I've been chastised. Well, how come you didn't come to the tricky tray? I can't be at 2 places at one time. I have brought myself and along with the other agencies. We've brought the town together as far as the ethnic groups. If you look, years ago there was only a few. One year we had it up to 31 different events. With the right help, we got a lot of stuff donated. So this, in the next 50 days, folks, you need to really sit down, think about it. I know there's going to be staunch Democrats voting for Democrats, staunch Republicans, voting for the Republican, which is fine, and it's your God-given right. As a Marine, that's what I fought for. But I just hope that people will start to see through the charades and hopefully put an end to silly season. So thank you for you taking your time, and we'll see you in November.
Well, thank you.